Welcome to the Tuesday edition of EdTech Live.
I know that as educators, we give our students and our jobs all of ourselves each and every day. And you deserve special kudos since you were here after a full day of teaching. I know that it's not always easy juggling after school commitments, but I'm glad that your dedication to learning today in order to support your students and your performance of your students has brought you into EdTech Live. Thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you too.
Right? We're ready. So this is a great time to learn new technologies, especially if these technologies increase engagement and student productivity. It is not too late. Why? Because you already know your students and you do want to try new things with the students that you already know. You don't really want to start new things with the students that you don't know next year. So do it.
So we have three amazing sessions for you today. Podcasts, I know that's the new and up and popular thing for all our students. So we have that as our first session today. Then following that, we have how to create interactive lessons with ClassFlow. So if that's new to you, you're going to find that truly engaging. And lastly, we're going to have Chris Shiner, who you may know from Twitter. He is going to be sharing how to make amazing Google Slides and sharing them using Google Classroom and Seesaw. So I think you have a lot to look forward to. I'm Tamara Ferguson, and I'm one of your hosts.
And I am Manny Curiel, and I'm the other host.
So today we have a few features that makes EdTech Live a little different than your usual online videos. We have a chat feature. That chat feature allows you to interact with not just the EdTech crew here with you today, who are behind the scenes watching what you're doing and interacting with you. but also with your presenter. So if you have questions for your presenter, know that those questions will be answered within moments of you posting that question. So use that feature. If you can't see it, you need to log in. And in fact, I'm going to share my screen with you now so that you can see that. Oh, that's not what we want you looking at. Let's close that out.
Paying attention.
So this is our website right here that you're watching, and you can see that we have the chat window on the right. The reason why I can see the chat window is because this area right here is the login place for you to be able to log in. If you're with our district, we already have a login for you, and it's your regular email. If you're outside the district, you may or may not have a Google login, and if you don't, you can just use your personal login. Now, here's the important part that makes EdTech Live kind of special. So even though this is a live event, you do have the ability to move this little slider. As you can see, when I move my little slider right here, it allows me to back up. So if you're joining us a little bit later, you can back it up to the beginning and start from the very beginning. You don't have to launch in the middle of a presentation. So you can just start there, submit your attendance verification. We'll go over that in just a moment. And then you can participate. You'll be a little bit behind, but know that the chat will go on without you because the chat is current and you might be a little bit behind. Now, the reason why I want to tell you that is because I know that after school, sometimes it's difficult juggling the commitment of making dinner, getting your kids off to whatever they have after school. And then you want to come back in and you want to come back to us and you don't want to miss anything. Well, don't worry. Sit down, have dinner with your family. And when they sit down to do their homework, you can open up your homework, which is EdTech Live.
Yeah, we got you.
So pick up where you left off, and you will still get credit as long as you participate in EdTech Live today. If you participate today, then you will get credit for this live event.
That's cool. I did not know that.
Wow, I taught you something.
You sure did.
That's pretty amazing.
See?
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing and bring us back to our lovely faces so you can see us. There we are. All right, so yes,
we also have, other than the chat, we also have amazing Twitter challenges made by the one and only Amanda. So we have the first one already happening. You should have already participate. We have hashtag Cypher, no, CFI is the EdTech Live T1, right?
Yes.
And just participate to keep things interesting and going. I'll be participating. Are you going to participate?
Absolutely. We should all participate because then we can get prizes because Katrina's going to go through. She's kind of our Twitter queen. She's going to go through and find some people that have participated and give them some pretty cool prizes. So if you're out there and you've won prizes from us before, let us know. We want to see that you're back with us today. I'm sure you're out there.
Yeah. Well, who's coming first? Oh, verification.
Yes, we have to tell them that. So behind us right here, Podcast in the Classroom is our first session that we have, and we have attendance verification. This is truly important because it's not just about sitting there and learning. We also want you to get credit. However, you have to do your part to get credit. If you do not submit your attendance verification, we don't know that you're here, and we need you to be here and prove that you're here. That's why it's called a verification. In addition to that, there's a little magical button inside that form that says, I have verified my link.
Please do it.
Yes, because it isn't just a matter of pushing that magic button. We actually need you to check to see that you've put your right email, because I know you want to jump right back in with us, but we want you to make sure that you have your correct email in there so you can get your certification for being here today. Now, in a few minutes, depends on how many people are submitting at the same time. It may take a few minutes, it may take 45 minutes, but sometime during the session, you'll get a receipt of that, and that will tell you that you have submitted your attendance, and you're like, good to go. But 45 minutes goes by and you don't get one, go ahead and resubmit another one.
Yeah, go back into the chat.
Odds are you have not submitted your attendance verification correctly with your email.
You put a period or a comma or something wrong.
Something. You put ENT instead of net, where it is. Make sure you check it.
So sad.
Okay, so we have our first presenter.
Yes, I want to know who we having first.
It's Kendra Hartzler from our very own Wells Elementary. Wells Elementary, I know you're out there.
Woo-hoo!
So she teaches 4th grade and she teaches language arts, and she uses podcasts in her classroom for a dual purpose. Her students will actually use podcasts themselves where they create their own, but she also uses them for her students to increase their listening comprehension. So they actually listen to professional podcasts, which helps them create better podcasts in the future. So Kendra. All right, let me help Kendra out here. We're going to unmute her. Kendra?
Yes, hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Kendra. We need you to turn your video camera on so we can see your lovely face. There she is.
Good afternoon.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good, how are you guys?
We're doing
Fabulous.
well.
We are ready for you.
Yeah, so it's all yours. Take it away.
Okay, I will share my screen here and get started.
Excellent. We're so excited to see what you have today. We're just like,
There you go.
Okay. We good to go on your end?
we are good. It's all yours.
Okay, so I am actually live, like they said, at Wells Elementary today. And so you may hear some announcements here in the background as we are just dismissing. I even brought my handy microphone that my students use to podcast because I thought that would just add a fun touch to me here. So like they introduced, listen up using podcasts in the classroom. My name is Kendra Hartzler, and I am a 4th grade teacher at Wells Elementary. I'm also part of the Sci-Fair ELAR Model Teacher Program and group. So I get to work with the curriculum coaches and share some professional development with them and just continue to grow myself as an educator, and super fun group to work with. I also want to put out a plug for our Sci-Fair chat that I co-moderate on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. So if you've never done a Twitter chat, or if you enjoy Twitter chats, come join and talk with us on Mondays at 7:30. You don't even have to be from Sci-Fair to participate in that either. So that is a little bit about me. And I just thought before jumping into the presentation, just sharing with you how Podcasts for Brain Power kind of began. I have taught now 14 years, all in Sci-Fair, and I was starting a new challenge, a new adventure for myself, and I was going to teach 4th grade. And we all know in 4th grade, there's a big emphasis on writing, and I wanted to find a fun way for students to be able to share their writing with a real world audience so that they knew that their voice was being heard and that their voice mattered. And so that's really where podcasts actually started, is that I wanted to give them a way to share their voice with the world, with their parents, with each other, and just help them know that we weren't just writing an essay to write an essay. We were writing an essay to share our voice and to maybe, change the world with our words. And so that is how podcasting in my classroom began. So this is my 2nd year dipping my toes into podcasting and learning new things each year and each day as I go, and we try new things with podcasting. So I'm going to share with you today how it works with my classroom, some of the things I've tried, some of the things that have worked. Please let me know if you have any questions along the way. There are just so many benefits from podcasts. I know as educators, we listen all the time, and I'm going to start with talking about my students creating podcasts, and then later on in the presentation, we'll talk about listening. But just when they are creating podcasts, they get to share their voice, like I said, and to them, that is a big deal. They want to be heard. They want to know you care. So letting them just get their voice out there. It just develops critical thinking as they have to plan, as they have to speak in front of other people. They have to think deeply about what they're going to say and how are they going to say it so that their audience understands. They have to be problem solvers as they plan it out, and one thing comes up and another, and they might have to go back and change something. And I will share my planning document with you later, but they have to check in with me and we kind of problem solve through some things. And there might be things they have to go back and change before they're ready to podcast for the world to hear. Like I said, that real audience, they think they are, big deal when they get to do their podcast and send it out into the real world. And then just the number one thing I've seen as the benefit is the engagement. I think of like our 4 C's and how they build the engagement with the communication, collaboration, critical thinking. And that is what we see here with podcasts in the classroom. I am going to share with you from my students why they love podcasting and what it means to them. So just take a quick listen.
Hi, our names are Maya and Anya in Miss Hartzler's class. We started a podcast called We Heart Writing Podcast. In this podcast, we share our writing with others to show our progress in writing. This podcast is a great way for people like our parents, classmates, and people around the world to hear our progress in writing. When we hear others writing, it helps us know what we need to add in ours. Podcasts are fun to record and convenient for busy people to listen to our writing. Thanks for listening to the We Heart Writing podcast. Goodbye.
Aren't they just cutest? It's convenient for their parents to listen to them. And that was recorded by my students last year when we really just shared our writing. This year they are getting into being able to plan and share real world events, things that are happening in our classroom, and just things they want to share their voice on. And it's so neat to see how creative they are on the topics that they want to share with the world. So, you might think, well, who's really going to listen to them? But there's just so many people that are willing to hop onto a podcast and listen. The great thing is that we can share these podcasts with our peers in the classroom. So they have access to other people's writing to listen as well. Parents can easily listen, grandparents, other classes. I partnered up with another class last year that would listen and give us feedback on our writing when it was specifically writing, and now on our topics. And you never know who might find your station on Spotify and listen from around the world. I'm going to click here, and this is going to take us just what happens when students launch their work to an audience. I absolutely love this infographic and what it shows and how much meaning they get from launching their work with a real audience. They grow more empathetic. They embrace that constructive criticism when we're having those tough conversations about what could we do to make this better. They become fearless and take those risks. They often work harder when they know more ears, in this case, not just eyes. Ears are going to hear it. They work harder. They want it to be their best work. It helps them develop that growth mindset, and they connect the learning to the world. They just find their inner voice, their creative voice, and they engage in their interactive thinking. So I just love that infographic. So if you're thinking about, starting podcasting and why you should do it, just take a look at this and look at all those things. And that is what we want our students to do and become. So Anchor is a great app and a great platform to do podcasting. It makes it so easy. In the app, the students can click right on it and they can create a new episode, a new season. Here's just what it kind of looks like on Spotify that parents can subscribe to and follow. And it shows them the names of it, of our episodes, where they are. They can scroll through and listen to what they want. So Anchor will push it out to different platforms for you. It makes it very user friendly for the students. My fourth graders can do all of this on their own. And so it's just so great for them to be able to feel confident in what they're doing, confident in their ability. They're able to add music and sound effects. They're able to, delete, cut. And so they feel empowered. They feel like they have, this task that they are charged with to do, and they do a great job on it. Just talking more about the problem solving that they encounter. They're having to plan, organize, and adjust. And for fourth graders and any of our students, those are the critical thinking skills we want them to be able to do. Anytime my students are able to create, they are more engaged, they are more hooked in, they are more in charge of their learning than ever before. And when they choose topics that they're sharing about, and if it's something that I'm teaching in class that they're writing about, it lets me know if they've got it or we need some more reteaching, and we can go back and talk through it before it's something that they podcast for the world to hear. Especially with our ESL learners, we want them to be able to articulate their thoughts, and just all of our students, but able to have that clear communication with one another. And podcasting really helps students to do that. It does take a few times, but that's the practice and the beauty behind it, that they can delete, start over, and record again if they need to. They can synthesize, they can take all the information they have, figure out how they want to put it together, adjust, and see how their thoughts are growing bigger as they go throughout their podcast. And my favorite is that the personalities of my students shine through. Some of my quietest students in class have the biggest personalities when they get behind the microphone and behind the screen of the podcast. And you see some different sides of them that I don't always see in class, because they just love getting to be who they are through the microphone and through their voice, their story and their voice. And they just grow and beam with confidence. It's just a wonderful thing to see as a teacher. So there's many different platforms you can use for podcasting. So I'm going to start by sharing some of those. I've talked about Anchor. And so Anchor is an app that you download. It was free. I didn't pay anything for it. I just made sure I became really user friendly with it so that I'd be able to teach a student. And then I have those tech leaders that can help others if they need it and to navigate it. So Anchor is a great app to use. Now, if you don't have, I have a school iPad and things like that. If you don't have those things, there are other platforms you can use, such as Google Slides. And Jamae Johnson from EdTech curriculum has shared with me this wonderful example that she has made and shared. So I'll click on it here. And she created this slide so that each student would have a box that they could then put in their podcast for. So it's a different platform and a different way to share it out. She used onlinevoicerecorder.com for them to go in, upload their podcast, talk it through just like Anchor, and then downloaded it and saved it to the Google Drive, and they were able to just put it right in here. So this is another way that you'd be able to share, student podcasts. So for example, if you had, you're a science teacher and you're wanting them all to, do some kind of podcast on erosion or something, they could each have their own, they could each work together in groups, podcast it, and be able to put their name in and upload it and listen. Or you could assign them different topics, whatever content you are, and they could each have their topic and then their podcast in there. And it would be a great way for students to review the content before a test as well by listening to their other classmates to see, what they're saying about that topic. And it would just be a great way to review. Here in language arts, you could do book reviews this way. There's so many different things you can do, but I love this option. If you don't want to use the app like Anchor, you could set up different Google Slides with different topics and students can put their podcasts right inside. So that's one way. Another one is like the online voice recorder. If you haven't heard of Vocaroo, I hope I'm saying that right. I use this for more than just podcasting in my classroom. It's a very simple way for students to just click, record what they're wanting to share. I've used this even for writing celebrations because once they're done, they just hit this. And the cool thing is with the save and share, it gives you the option right here for a QR code. So then you can even share this podcast right outside your classroom door. You could share this right home to your parents. They put it on their book. Other children can listen to their stuff. So Vocaroo is another great way if you just want it quick to be a quick QR download, and then they're able to scan with a computer or the iPads or their iPhones if they bring their own technology to school, and they're able to listen to the podcast right there. And it's great for administrators walking by your classroom. They also can scan that QR code and hear what the students are learning or what they're sharing their voice about that day. If you do later, once you have my presentation, if you click on these different things, you'll get to go to them to be able to make a copy and kind of change and make for your class. So if you click here on choices, I also linked a video that Jamae made showing us how to save audio if you're using online voice recorder or even the Vocaroo and wanting to upload into your Google Drive. Even though my students use Anchor, I do often still save their links individually and upload to my Google Drive just to have all of their podcasts. So if I want to use one as an example for the next year, for later down the road, I can do that as well. So it's a great way, a resource for you to know how to upload it to your drive. So I just have some tips for getting started because I know it can kind of seem like, oh my goodness, this is intimidating. This is scary. I'm not really sure. Well, those were exactly my thoughts too. And I just had to jump in with, my 2 feet and kind of blindly my first year and just give it a try. Because I knew if I didn't just try it, I would keep saying, well, once I know a little bit more about it, once I know a little bit more about it. So I highly suggest you just take these tips and you just get started, because without just getting started, it probably won't happen. So I just shared 3 different platforms you could use for podcasting. As a review, I used the app Anchor. You could use online voice recorder to record your students' podcast and then put into a Google slide. You could also use the Vocaroo that easily you can download the QR code. So just kind of decide on what platform you will use. What are you comfortable with? What do you think your students will be comfortable with? I know in elementary school, they're actually way more capable than sometimes I think, and sometimes can teach me how to use things as well. So just jump in and get started. And then I just kind of made a plan. What am I going to have my students share and when? And like I said, I really started my first year with just them podcasting about their writing. And then this year I am venturing into, the topics they want to share, the stories they want to share. And so just giving them a voice. So I decided, well, what will we share? What will we start with? So you kind of can be in control of that. If you would like to be in control of that, or just give them open-ended and let them, amaze you with what they will come up with. Of course, you want to set expectations. Let them know what is allowed, what's appropriate, when they can do this, when they cannot. So set those expectations that work for your class. I'm going to show you in a few slides here how and when my students are able to podcast and they know when they can do that. Plan and practice together. So at the beginning of the year, we actually listen to some podcasts together. We take notes together. We talk through what made that podcast interesting, why we want to come back and listen to this podcast again. And when we have that plan and practice together, it's able for them to kind of see, okay, so when I'm on my own, this is how I will be able to come up with an idea, a plan, and then they're on their own. To just make it fun, we came up with a class name. Last year it was We Heart Writing Podcast, since it was specifically about writing. This year it's We Heart Learning, and we share lots of things. We came up with Wells 104.1. So when you listen to my students' podcast, you will hear that they're coming live from Wells Elementary 104.1. And they just love it. They feel like they are the talk show hosts. And then, they publish and share with others. So decide on how else you are going to publish and share this with others. If you're not using Anchor, that goes right to a platform like Spotify or iTunes podcasts. Think of how you'll share this with others. Will you give parents a link to be able to access it? How will you share it with others? Because again, that real world audience is what we talked about, and that's so important for getting the students engagement and buy-in on them. I linked here just another article if you want to learn more about podcasting, another guide for educators, some different things that I read before jumping right in to podcasting. And so this was my background that we have for the We Heart Learning podcast, that students are able to get their picture taken in front of after they are the ones that are sharing the podcast for the day. I try to just make it fun for them. So here is my planning document that I created to help my students be more successful in their podcasting. So I was able to create this, and I'm going to share it with you as well. So if you click here, you can open it up, and I'm going to make the screen big so I can talk through it to you and show you what they do. I print it front to back, 2 sides here, down the middle. They have to plan this podcast first. They can do it by themselves with a partner, however they are going to be podcasting their particular episode. They have to tell me their topic. They need to write out their introduction. So as a writing teacher, this is so great. They get to work on several things that we are teaching through our personal narratives and our essays. And so they get to come up with their introduction. And then they need to plan what are they going to share with their audience. They need to write down specifically the questions they're going to ask, the answers they're going to have back with it, the facts that they are going to share with their audience. And so they work on this. And then on the back, they have to plan for what mood and feeling do they want the audience to take away from their podcast. Is this an upbeat? Is it a sad? What topic is it? And they need to think through that as they plan it. I like them to think through their music and sound effects. Does it match the mood and feeling? Does it match what they're talking about? And then a conclusion. We have to wrap up our podcast. What are you going to say? And so I make this very detailed for them so that I am able to give them good feedback. So down on the reflection and the feedback is where I will write some notes to them, some questions to them after they turn this into me. And then I give it back to them and they make some changes and then we talk through it. So this is where that constructive criticism comes in as I help them make it the best that it can be for when they go to podcast. And of course, they always will ad lib some things in, but it's great for just planning and making sure they have a great idea and a great plan going in to their podcast. So like I said, once at the end, I will share my bit.ly and it will share with you. You'll be able to click on these and make a copy and adjust and meet the needs of your classroom and your students. But this has been huge in setting them up for success. Last year at the beginning of the year, I just kind of sent them out and they struggled a little bit. So this planning document has been huge. So make sure you teach them how to plan, make sure you help them plan, and then, just release those reins as you go on. But I highly suggest printing this out, making it your own, and having them plan and share with you before they go out to podcast. So I needed somewhere for them to also podcast so that it wouldn't be so loud around them. So the recording studios were made this summer. And what I did, and they work really well, is I just used black crates that you can find at Walmart or Target, and you could use any color. And I took exercise flooring that you'd put like under a treadmill or an elliptical machine, and my husband cut them to size for me. He often helps me with several school projects, so it was wonderful. He fit those nice and tight for me, and then we put just a nice little wood border on there to match my classroom colors. But the students can put the iPads in there and record into them, and it blocks a lot of the noise. And so they feel just special when they get to carry the recording studio somewhere. And then of course we had to put our sign up there, the We Heart 104.1 Wells podcast. And so there's, if you don't being inside there with our open concept in elementary, these have come in really handy. So just be careful with your pop-up pods. Sometimes those become a fire safety issue. So that's why these recording studios were thought up, and they're very cheap, very easy, and very portable for the students to use. And so that was another thing that I learned through trial and error, is that we don't want all the background noise for that. And the microphone I'm holding right here is one they use. It can connect to the iPad. It can help amplify their voice, and it just makes podcasting so much more fun. So invest in a $20 microphone from Amazon. They do have different styles, so I highly suggest making it fun with the microphone. Another thing that I found really important is just to celebrate the hosts. So after they have planned, after they have recorded their podcast, we let them come back in my room, take a picture in front of our sign, and then let them play their podcast for the classmates right then and there so that everyone gets to hear it. I'm big on Twitter, and I like to share things out via that way. And so I will also link their podcast right to Twitter. I'll usually tag their parents if I know they're on there, or I'll go ahead and just send the direct link to my tweet of this one to their parents so that they can also listen and hear. And it's a great way, another positive way to communicate with parents. So right here is the link, and you can see right here is the reading graffiti that this girl had shared. I'm just going to share a little bit for you so you can hear how she starts and shares.
Welcome to We Heart Learning Podcast. Hi, my name is Heather Hartman, and I am in Miss Hartzler's class. You know, when you go to the city, you see graffiti everywhere. Well, graffiti is bad, but reading graffiti, on the other hand, is really good. We do it in Miss Hartzler's class. Reading graffiti is when you take really good sayings from books and put it on poster paper. What is the difference between graffiti and reading graffiti? Well, regular graffiti is stuff on the walls with no meaning. And reading graffiti is on paper with a true meaning. Reading graffiti can teach you honesty, kindness, and acceptance, and many more. Reading graffiti is very fun to do. Having a book on hand is pretty good, but when you have reading graffiti, it is locked on paper and in your heart. I encourage you to do reading graffiti. Bye.
This was not a writing sample she shared. This was her own topic that she chose for reading graffiti, and it's something we do in our classroom. We have an anchor bulletin board up, and as we look for our signposts and collect words of the wiser, we put them up there. And so she took it. I love how she compared it to real graffiti and how reading graffiti is great. And so then we also talk through after we listen to them, and we give more feedback to that presenter, that podcaster, so that they'll be able to take it and fine tune their presentation even more for next time. So it's just fun to celebrate the host. I love any good reason to celebrate students. And after they are willing to put themselves out there and share, they deserve a celebration for podcasting for sure. So I told you I'd kind of show you when and where my students are able to podcast. And so these are just a couple different choice boards I have used before. This one over here where you see the lock screen, then podcasting becomes open to them after they have finished their choice board activities that are required. That becomes an option for them. And so it's motivation and gives them that choice of if they would like to podcast, they have more of the opportunity to do that. Here is just one of our project choice boards that I have done before with biography. And as you can see under listening ears, one of the options for them to present about the person that their subject that they were researching is to write a script and record a podcast using Anchor, pretending to be their subject. So, if their subject was Rosa Parks or, someone from past history, they get to bring that person to life and be them through the podcast. So again, that student voice and choice, just giving them lots of options and times that they would be able to do podcasting. And so this one was over in writing, where after they did their final copy, they were able to publish, they could ask for feedback, and they could share out via our podcasting as well. And so just giving them lots of opportunity, and they know that when they finish the required tasks in our playlists and through our blended learning, that they have the opportunity to create and listen to podcasts, and they love it. It just helps them to be motivated and to accomplish their goals so they can move on to the things that they want to do. And so I just have a question for you. How could you incorporate student created podcasts in your classroom? And if you're able to scan that QR code with your phone, if you have it handy next to you as you're listening to EdTech Live today, scan it and it will take you to a place where you can share some of your ideas. And I'm going to scan it too. And if you've not used Storming, this is a really cool website to use with students to just get quick instant feedback, gauge how they are doing. You can enter your name to participate, join in, and then just type in some ways that you think you might be able to incorporate student created podcasts in your classroom. And then take time to scroll through and see some of the other ideas from other participants that might just generate some ideas in your head for being able to what you might do and take and spin into your own classroom. So I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. So when I'm just looking here at the storming, I just see some great ideas, and my light just went off in here, so I'm going to stand up and wave. Sorry about that. I see that in teaching science, they could have students use a podcast for formative assessment or an extension for students to answer essential questions or expand on a topic. So great ideas. Just kind of scroll through, look for your subject, look for other things. I love the listen to letter sounds. That could be, even a teacher created podcast for their student to listen to in a younger grade. I always have the question of how could we incorporate this into the more of the primary grades? And I really think that if you walk them through just some of those steps, and maybe your planning document looks a little bit different, that they can do it. They could definitely share their writing via podcast for others to hear and give them feedback too. I had a question about the platform for the QR code, and that was Vocaroo. And it's just, I love that it makes it so easy. You don't have to do the extra step of going to a QR code generator and adding in the link and then creating the download. So the QR download. So the Vocaroo is just so great in terms of just having that QR code right there without having the extra steps for students to do. And so I love all your ideas that you have, and just continue to look through there. This QR code will stay here, and you can add some of your ideas and get some ideas from other people as well. So that was for student creating podcasts. And now I'm kind of going to shift gears back to more of the benefits of listening to podcasts. So as my students were creating podcasts last year, I kind of did a little backwards design and then decided, maybe there's some benefits to them listening to these podcasts as well. I know they're listening to their peers created essays podcasts, but what if I created a podcast menu for them? And that idea came from Meredith Akers, the principal over at Rennell. She had a podcast for PD for her teachers. So I started thinking as I was looking through it, well, maybe I should have a podcast for students and have a menu for them to be able to go to and choose, especially if they love listening to podcasts as much as I do. So it just, when we listen, our listening skills improve. And like I said before, all students can work on that, but especially our ESL kids, as we're getting them to become more proficient in their speaking and their listening, think about how they could do that through the use of podcasts in your classroom. Again, even though they're listening, they are using those critical thinking skills, having to synthesize information and summarize the information that they are learning through the podcast that they are hearing. And so, again, either creating or listening, there are so many different benefits to it. It just causes them to sometimes pause. They can pause, they can slow down, you can rewind, you can go back and re-listen to something again. And so if you are a teacher and you created a podcast specifically too for them to listen to as a lesson or a review, they can pause and re-listen to it as many times as they need. And that way they would be getting that information, and really it's just tailoring it right to their instructional needs. And I already talked about that, reviewing a difficult concept. And that's where it comes in really back to where I showed you Jamay's slide with the Google Slides. If each child talked and created a podcast about a different concept, as students are setting goals and they know that's something they struggle on, they can go back and they can click right there and listen to that podcast about that topic and just feel more comfortable with that. Excuse me. Podcast, the benefits of that also is it allows movement. If they have it on their phone or their iPad, they could walk the halls and listen to the podcast as long as they are on task. And especially again, if it's a podcast that you gave them to listen to, it increases their brain and they're able to think about what they're learning and get some of their movement and their wiggles out. So I love the idea of them just walking the halls with their iPad or their phone and listening to the podcast that you recommend for them or the podcast that they chose. So again, for listening to podcasts, I created a podcast in the classroom menu for them. And so I had some students one day that spent lunch with me because they wanted to help me develop and create this podcast menu for the classroom. So we looked at several different professional podcasts, and these were the ones they wanted me to put on here. So if you click on this, it will give you a link to this, and you can make a copy of it. But it's so cool because it is live linked, and I made sure too that these are accessible on our Chromebook. So especially if you're in Sci-Fair, these all work on the Chromebook. So if you're not a bring your own technology campus, or your students don't have access to their iPhone or iPad or whatever else, you have all of these that work directly on the Chromebook. And so they just, if they decide, okay, I want to listen to this Brains On one, they can click right here and it will take them to the Brains On podcast website. And this one is highly favorite in my classroom. There are so many different things. And of course, it's things that just cry out for student attention. They're, how do pianos work? Bigfoot, unicorns and dragons, making sense of myths. So this is specifically good for science as well. And you can search at the top. So if you're looking, for bugs, or you're studying forests or plants, you can search and see what comes up. Thinking, stinking, why we smell. So if you're doing senses, and this would be a great way to hook kids in for a lesson on a day too. So you could do some whole group podcast listening as well. I'm always looking for new ways to hook students in, and just sharing a quick minute, 2 to 3 minute podcast. If I'm teaching senses, and even if I'm in a primary classroom, they can listen and then they can share out what they like. So that's a favorite. This Dream Big is a great motivational podcast for students and children. And so they can go through and see by Eva. And this is a very fun one to listen to at the beginning to help students hear her voice and how she podcasts. So this is what we did at the beginning of the year. We listened to several of these together and made notes of what Eva was doing, and then helped us to create our own as well. And then again, just some other science one, fun-filled ethics, kids with questions that stump others. And this helps them kind of think of topics too that they might want to create their own podcasts for. How do we fall asleep? And I love that they just keep it current with new ones. What happens when a president is impeached? And so different things that are going on in our world. And then funny ones like, do animals get married? So all of these that just really get my students' interest, just get them excited to listen to. And so they're able to do this at different times throughout the classroom when they finish their required choice board activities. And so like I have a planning sheet, I also have a reflection sheet for students. I find it important for them to be able to show me what they're learning, able to reflect and summarize, and that just shows me that they're able to comprehend what they are reading. This one's a little bit shorter, it's just the front side. But I asked for them to share with me what podcasts they're listening to, cool facts that they're learning, any connect. I really asked for one of each, if they can make a connection to something, and then, however many questions they still have about that topic, or questions that came to mind, things they're inquiring after they listen to that podcast. And then they need to write a little reflection for me, tell me their thoughts, summarize it for me. Should someone else listen to this? So just working on that comprehension. And again, you could change up your reflection sheet based on your grade level, your content, and if there was a specific one you wanted your students to listen to. So my kids just love being able to get there, especially if they bring their own technology. This is easy for them to save on their thing, click on it and listen to it. And like I said, I showed this one earlier, but here it is bigger. And it's kind of a locked one sometimes, but they know that after they finish their required ones, that's an option, and they kept the ability to listen, to create. And so some days they may want to listen and some days they may want to create, but giving them that voice and choice in the thing that they would like to do. So as I'm wrapping up talking to you about podcasts today, I want to know what your ideas and thoughts are on using podcasts with your students. And just giving you some time to just kind of reflect and think, what podcasts could you use for your grade and subject? And so if you would be able to go and type in that bit.ly/Padlet podcast. Let's go ahead and see if that is working and if you can share out some of your thoughts. And I had a question about what grade level is the Brains On geared for. To me, it seems like more elementary, middle school, but it possibly could have the high school science ideas. I love the search bar at the top. because last night I was kind of looking through it as I was finishing up touches on the presentation, and I was thinking of what my 4th grade science partner is, teaching, and I was Googling some of those and able to find, different ones that would work for her to use as hooks or use as reflections and, reteaching a difficult concept for her students. So let's try and see what we have on our Padlet here. And that's why I love Twitter too, because we can just tweet out and ask for some other podcast ideas that would be good for our students. And I'm going to click on it right here so I can pull it up and see as you share your ideas on Padlet for all of us to see. Oh, I love this idea of creating a Google site for kids to access and pick their podcasts for the day, and they were able to choose 2 a week. It's a great idea, having that Google site and giving them access just to that link to be able to click on it. Earth Rangers is another podcast for kids. Here is one for secondary, someone shared. Awesome, mathinsider.com, math podcast. So if you're looking for math in secondary, these are great resources. So make sure you just have a chance to click on the Padlet and go here and just add in yours too if you find anything. It's just always great to be sharing and learning from one another. I love those ideas. So regarding Anchor, having some more questions on that. I use my account and allow students to be able to record through me. I monitor that very closely, and they don't publish anything to the web until after I have listened to it, and that way we're able to just have our one class podcast station, and so that works really well for me in our classroom. And students are very respectful. We set those expectations, and they know what is expected, what's allowed, and what is not. A great question about student privacy. And we at our school, our students sign waivers, for who's allowed on what and who is not. And so I take that into account, and I won't put any live for those students. And if they do want to still podcast, I use Vocaroo or the online voice recording, so they are still able to podcast and then share that with their parents that way. And so they're able to still reach the world and let other people hear what they have to say with respecting the privacy of what their parents would like and what is the best for them. What would be the easiest platform for a teacher who is nervous about doing this? Great question. I think really the Vocaroo is a great way because it's not, I believe the Vocaroo after a while, the link will go away. So it's not like a long-term lasting thing. It lasts for a month or 2, I believe. And so that would be a great way for students just to record, to be able to have their voice out there and to have people easy access to it. And advice for teachers just getting started. I have a slide back a ways that is about my tips. And I think, again, you just have to jump into it and go with it. I was very scared at the beginning of what if this doesn't turn out? What if it doesn't, work out? So if you're just kind of joining in late, please just rewind and go back, and my slideshow, my presentation will be available with my tips. And how could we use this for professional development? I love that question. I think it would be a great way for, if you had a day of brainstorming with your teachers on your team, if you had a way to talk through how you could also create podcasts for the upcoming STAR reviews, the STAR units. I think that would be great. And how can we make podcasts more collaborative between students? I think, well, one, planning together, it makes it collaborative. And then when I let them listen to each other after they present it, we'll play it for the whole class, and that feedback they give makes it very collaborative. Also, if you use the Google Slide platform that I shared earlier in the presentation, students could also have access to that and be able to leave comments, ask questions that way as well. I love these questions, getting us to think more deeply about our podcasts. I think my students' favorite part, that was the question about podcasting, is possibly using this microphone and getting to go take the recording studio outside in the hallway and share what they want to share. They are so proud of their writing after they share it. They're so proud of the topics that they come up. They are just so excited to go create. And I love that it just brings the engagement up with them. And one last thing from me before my time is up. I have a little reflection here, 3, 2, 1, reflect. In this way, you go to this bit.ly, you'll be able to ask me a question and leave your email and I can respond directly to you, but also just sharing with me any other thoughts you have or questions. And so if you will do that, thank you for joining me today. I loved being able to share with you. Here is my email. Please reach out with any questions you have. I know that was fast and furious, and I would love to share more about podcasting with you. Please follow me on Twitter at Mrs. Hartzler4. You can find lots of different ideas from me there and connect with other wonderful people as well. And I do have a blog. I try to post once a week or so my new ideas for the classroom, heartandsouleducator.blogspot.com. And down at the bottom of this slide is the link to this presentation. Thank you so much for joining me today. I enjoyed my time with you and I hope that you learned something that you will be able to try out in your classroom this year.
Well, thank you, Kendra. That was a lot.
I know, fast and furious.
I think the best part for me was I've never done it. I'm afraid to try it. And you gave us so many tips into how to overcome that fear and just do it.
That's right. Just do it. Otherwise, I would still be saying, I need to talk to someone and how do I do this? And I learn new things each and every time we do it together. And every time I present this, great questions come up and more things develop and I'm able to share more things from that.
Right. So when we go to conferences, it's the same thing. We go into the classroom like, how do I do it? It's like, just do it. Right?
That's right. And the kids, they're probably podcasting at home or already practicing their videos anyway. So they're ready for the challenge.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Well,
that's
school.
right, tonight.
It's almost tonight.
It's almost tonight.
Well, actually, on parts of the world, it might be tonight because we kind of share around the world.
So this
That
is
is
our first
true.
edition of Tuesday.
This is our first Tuesday edition, yes.
Well, I'm so glad I got to be the first one.
You are very much.
All right. Well, if you are still on, make sure, obviously you're still on because you're watching us, right? On the chat, make sure you are looking for the next link and go to Twitter, obviously. If you have not done the challenge number 1, go ahead and do this. And challenge number 2 should be up already because Amanda is on it.
Absolutely. And the link is probably in our actual YouTube chat. So you can click on the link in the YouTube and go possibly to our Twitter site if you're not already there. So we're going to make it as easy as possible by putting our Twitter link for our Twitter page in our actual chat. So we're going to get Connie on that. So she knows to do that. Hopefully Connie's listening, right?
So on Twitter, you have the challenges, and on YouTube, we will like to hear from you to see which ones are your podcasts as educators are your favorite. Because we talked about, well, not we, she talked about the podcast for kids. We want to hear from you just to see what is it that you like to listen to.
Yeah, because a lot of it's like the new thing right now is to be driving, listening to podcasts, and as educators, there's so much out there that you can learn from.
You have a favorite one?
I don't really have a favorite one because I kind of listen to them all.
I have one. It's Jake Miller, obviously, because I was in it.
Oh, yes. Okay. I have to say that's my favorite too.
Educational podcast. Educational duct tape. There you go. I don't even know the name. So sad.
All right. So speaking of Twitter, make sure you follow us on Twitter. And that's why we asked Connie to put that link in there so you can get to know us a little better in the things that we offer around the district, because we do more than EdTech Live. We do a lot for the school district to help support our teachers and the students. For instance, we have upcoming the Student EdTech Expo that's coming up in just a few weeks. So we're thinking about getting those in and getting the kids with their stuff in. So if you're an educator in Cypress Fairbanks, think about what your kids use in the classroom for just the regular technology that they're using. You don't have to create anything fancy. Get those kids using stuff, and whatever you're already doing. If your kids are already doing podcasts, if they're already doing Desmos, how are they using Desmos? Maybe they're using Equatio where the students are actually creating Quayshios, or maybe they're making their own websites. It doesn't have to be something where you create this big science fair. It's not that at all. It's just how are your kids already using the equipment that's in your classroom in a way that's productive in your class. So think about that and get your kids in with a Student EdTech Expo. We're excited to have you on for that. So follow us on Twitter, but we also, for the next few minutes, are going to do a break. During that break, we have a special request for you. Shannon is our next presenter, and she is going to do something a little different for us.
What is she doing?
She wants to do something that's a little more interactive. So I'm going to share my screen so you can see what she has for you.
I wonder what she's going to do.
Okay, sharing my screen. Don't know what that is. Let's get rid of that and maybe minimize that. We got a few things open here. So what you have right here, let me move this little guy right there. There we go. Okay, so what you have here is Shannon's participation. She is going to be creating interactive lessons, and she would like you to be able to see what the student view is. So you can experience it from a student view. You don't have to participate in this way, but we'd like a few of you to at least do this if you have a second device. Open up and go to bit.ly/, that's an S, capital G, ClassFlow. So that stands for Shannon Gilpatrick ClassFlow. So there's a meaning behind that S and that G.
I was wondering, like, ClassFlow, that's not ClassFlow.
Yeah, no. So go to the bit.ly / ClassFlow and check out her thing that she has set up for the student view. You'll log in as her student and you'll put your name in there. So you're not officially logging in. So it's just a link that anybody can go in, but you have to put your name in, make it school appropriate. You know how that works. So while you're doing that, you, if you have a second device, are going to be sitting up or getting into the ClassFlow with Shannon. If you are, I'm going to stop share so you can see what we have next. If right here you have the podcast, which is the wrong one. Wow. Thanks for telling me to change my Zoom background. She's holding it up now. Okay. So we'll update that.
Yeah, and so thankfully I had my water here. I took a few drinks, but it's really weird presenting when you don't have like an audience and you don't know how to gauge it.
There. And for the next 15
I
minutes,
just feel like I was
like
talking to like, yeah.
Verification.
Yeah, I want you to do the attendance
So,
verification.
I'm not going to rewatch that anywhere of myself.
And do Shannon's sign up. Okay, so
Lots to do.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
lots to do.
appreciate it. And I'm going to pick your things back up.
Yeah.
I just sat down. So
But you have lots of things to do. So we want you
all right,
back.
so we'll see you back in a few minutes.
They're the cutest, but I was like, oh, you didn't need a backdrop. No, I mean, I'm like, it's fine. They know I'm coming live from school and, you know.
Welcome back. So we have the next session up with Shannon. Make sure you register with the attendance verification. And once again, that magic little red button that says confirm your email, make sure that you actually checked your email to make sure their email is correct. So who do we have up next?
We have Shannon. She's going to present about how to make your lessons interactive. Wouldn't you want your students to participate in real time?
Yeah, that's helpful.
Right?
To know what they're doing right when they're doing it.
It's
Imagine
really cool.
technology helping you with that.
You'll think. So Shannon is going to show you how to do it. Make sure that you join her class if you want to participate. Of course, I'm going to participate. Are you going to participate?
Probably going to be doing this.
I'm going to participate. So are we ready? Shannon, can you hear me? She cannot hear me.
Manny, can you see me?
Yes.
There it is. Look at that.
Hello,
How
hello.
are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fabulous. We are so
Wonderful.
ready for you.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And get started here. Good afternoon. I think I can still consider it an afternoon right now. So I am so excited to be here with you all on this Fat Tuesday and to talk to you about ClassFlow and how to increase student voice in your classroom. So a little bit about me to start. I am the mother of 2 teenage daughters who are awesome. I love them. Kendall's 14, almost, not yet. And Chloe is 17. And today they both had some big tests at school. One of them, Kendall had a DPM, and then Chloe took her ACT today. And so it was kind of a big day for them. And we were talking about it a little bit after school on the phone. And one of the things that's always so surprising to me and that I've noticed when talking to my kids is whenever they are challenged to do something or have to be, I guess, asked to perform or to actually show what they know, they get really anxious about it. And so it just has me thinking about what are the things that we can do in the classroom so that that's not a big deal for kids, that they're always used to sharing their knowledge, that they're always used to having to speak up and having to share. So I feel like ClassFlow and a lot of other tools out there too are in technology resources are excellent ways to do that. And so I'm excited to show you some simple ways that you can get started using ClassFlow. So ClassFlow is a free tool, and it is, we do use it within Sci-Fair. We have our own accounts, but it is also free to anyone. And it's an interactive platform, learning platform. So imagine being able to put something up on your screen, send that exact thing out to a student device or a group of students, and have them interact with it, respond to it in some way. And then their response comes back to you. You're able to formatively assess them right there on the spot and change that instruction in the moment. So that's one of the best parts about it. And you'll see today, whenever we get into a little sample, which hopefully it works well, when we get into the example, then you'll see how quickly you can make changes as you go through your instruction, which is just being in the moment with your kids, which is one of the best parts about it. So, all right. I do truly believe this, that anything that we have to learn to do, we learn by doing. So I appreciate all of you that were able to join in. It may have limited the number of people. I've never actually had more than a classroom of students joining one of my classes. So if you weren't able to get in, I am going to show a side-by-side of the student view and the teacher view, so you will still be able to see it, I promise. The first thing that I want to talk to you all about is how to start with ClassFlow, and the key thing is to start simple. Just like anything that you're learning or anything that you're starting to do first, there are so many things available, and in education, we run into that all the time, and we want to do everything and we want to try everything, and there is just a plethora of information available to us. So my goal here with this is just to give you some ways that you can start simple, start with one thing, and then grow from there. So we're going to definitely talk about those simple ways that you can get started. And then the second thing is talking about teacher moves. So some tips that I've learned by watching teachers, by using the tool on my own, as well as coaching teachers to use it, and ways to manage it in the classroom, as well as just some different tips and tricks that seem to make it easier to get started with ClassFlow. And then we'll talk about the couple different ways, again, some simple starts to creating lessons and to borrowing lessons from others who have created them. So we'll look at both ways to convert things that you've maybe already created, or ways to start from scratch. And I'm really excited to show one thing that I just learned recently. So we're going to get started. Okay, I did notice that several people have joined us in the class. So I'm going to go ahead and open my teacher view. And I haven't started it yet. So right now you are probably seeing a beautiful picture. So I'm going to go ahead and open the class, and I'm going to launch my lesson. And then, as I said, I'm going to do a side-by-side. So this give me just a moment as I move some things around here so that we can bring up a student view too. So if you didn't get that link, it's bit.ly/SG ClassFlow. Okay. So this student is actually, the student view that I'm using is one of those lovely children I mentioned earlier. And she was signed in, all right, signed in through this computer. So that's why it didn't prompt me to type in a name. But if you did just do an open class, which is what I am doing, so anyone can join, then the students only have to type in this join code, or they could follow the link. Let's see here. This link right here, which I made into a bit.ly just to make it easier for you all. And they would just follow this link with that join code to join your class. The great thing about this join code is that it is specific to you, your profile. So that join code will always be the same. So it's really a great tip, which I'm going to talk about later, but to have that up in your classroom, because that code does stay the same. All right, so right now you can see my screen as the teacher is saying, welcome, what is your favorite dessert? And what I'd like to do is I'm going to send this out to you. I have some options over here on the left, or excuse me, on the right. And I can see that I've got 31 people joined here. So I can choose to either send this screen where you're just going to look at it. I can send it to all students, or I could choose some specific students that I want to send it to. Or I can send you a question or an activity that I want you to do with this information. So that's what I'm going to choose to do. In fact, I feel like that is one of the best parts about this tool. So I'm going to send it to you as a text for your response. And you can see here that what students are seeing, excuse me, refresh that, because if I make that too small, then it does that weird thing where it goes. There we go. Okay. So the students are seeing this. They're able to type in a response and click submit. And then as a teacher, I am able to see their responses coming in. So you can see everyone's responses starting to pop in. And if I don't want those to show yet, I can always double click on this and have it big while those are coming in. And then I also have the option over here on the right, I can click show names. So that will allow me to see who is responding, or I can keep it anonymous as it is currently. So that's, depending on what the question is or what you're doing in your classroom. So I can start moving these around you'll see, ooh, Bluebell, homemade vanilla, yes. Absolutely, tres leches. Ooh, pecan pie. Oh, I saw another one of those. So I'm actually gonna link these two. I can do that in just a moment once I stop the poll. I can see I have 15 responses remaining, and all of these will continue to come in until I stop. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm sorry if you didn't get a chance to respond, but I know our time is limited and I just want you to be able to see what's going on with those responses. So now that these have come in, I can start making some adjustments to them. So I can move things around. I could have students come up and do that. I can color code some of these. So if I wanted to say anything with chocolate, I'm going to color with yellow, or I could, you know, anything with that has a liquid, I could color, you know, a certain color, whatever the case may be. This is just a fun question to start with, but you'll notice that even with this fun, simple question, we can start adding some content in. So you're going to have to think, but I won't make it too hard. All right, so chocolate brownies, you're my bud. All right, so here's what we're going to do. At this point, I'm going to choose, we'll go with chocolate brownies. And I'm going to, from the right-hand side, I can select poll from here. Make this a little bit bigger so you guys can see. So I can actually choose poll from here. And then the question I'm going to ask you all, I'm going to ask you a yes, no question. It's hard to see down there, but it's giving me, there is a yes, no option right down here. And I'm going to click that. And what will happen is the question that I would like you to answer is, have you ever eaten chocolate brownies? So now the student has a question to answer. They need to choose one option, yes, no, or they don't know. I guess that's possible. And as the student chooses their answer, then those again are starting to populate on the teacher view. And that's only, you'll notice that little warning it's giving me is just because I'm trying to do this side by side. Typically, the students wouldn't be moving around the sides of their windows. They'd be staying the same full screen. So you can see, ooh, a lot, all right. You can see my numbers going up here. Again, I have the option to show names. So I could look at every person's name here and see who has responded, who I'm missing whenever those responses haven't come in yet. And again, I do have some of those same options where I can move this around, I can link things, but it's just a quick way of getting that response from students if I just needed a yes, no, or don't know. And the great thing about that would be if it was something that I asked and a don't know might be, I mean, how are you understanding? It would be anonymous. So if students are struggling with something, this could be a quick way, you know, a thumbs up, thumbs down, sideways. Sometimes they're not always honest with that. And so this maybe would be a way where students would feel a little bit more comfortable to take a risk and admit that, yeah, hey, I don't know what's going on. I need help. So, and then the teacher can look at that in privacy later to see which students that was. So that is another, I'm going to go ahead and stop that poll. And then the students see this picture, lovely, beautiful picture over here, which I'll talk about in a little bit whenever we get to the teacher moves piece. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is show you down here, I can view, excuse me, all of my cards that are down here. So these are the things that I have planned, which we're not going to go through all of these, but this would be all of my presentation. And I can also view what the students see. So I have set up some specific student cards, and I'll show you that in a little bit, how you do that and how you can make those either the same or different. What I'd like to do right now is I'm just going to add a new card, which is just giving me a blank card. And I am going to ask you to do something with that. So I'm going to go ahead and toggle back here. Which I could have left that open. I don't have to close that in order to send you something, but I'm going to send you what's called a word seed. And so I can do one of two things. I could type in here and add some text as to what I want you to do or how I want you to respond, or I could just verbally tell you. So I'll do a little bit of both, but what I would type here is list as many ingredients as you can that are needed for chocolate brownies. Okay. And then I'm going to send this as a word seed to all students. And then you'll see that students receive that here. They type in their response, but they can type in more than one response. So they could type in milk, obviously, chocolate, eggs, anything else, oil, maybe anything else that they feel is needed for brownies, as many as they can get in before the time is up. And you can manage this in different ways. You could, you notice how it just popped up. Chocolate has been listed a few times, so it's automatically recognizing that because it was typed in the same way. Ah, somebody gave me a number, 5 of something. This would be maybe a time whenever I would want to show names, and I could see who's responding with 5 if I felt that that was something I needed to address. So I'm gonna let you slide today. All right. So again, some of the same options that are available through here. All right. Love it. Nuts. I'll pass. Ooh, mint. Okay, sorry, I'm getting distracted by all of that because brownies are my absolute favorite. And I have a hard time of turning them down. All right. Love it. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to stop that poll, and then I can manipulate these things. So let's say that this was a science lesson. I wanted to move things into solids, liquids, or gases, or solids or liquids, honestly, in this case. So I could, put things between. Then you're going to have those things where their kids are like, I don't know, which is that? Is it solid or is it a liquid? It's kind of both. It has some elements of both. And so it just starts having some good discussion. So maybe if that were to come up, then you can send that out, poll from here. You can send a text poll, or you could send what's called a creative poll, which we're going to do in just a moment, or even just a true false, thumbs up, thumbs down, whether they think that this is a solid or a liquid. So do you think that eggs are a solid? And then the students would respond, yes, I think it's true. I think eggs are solid. And that would come back, and then that could lead to some discussion. So far, this is all began from just that one card that we started as to what is your favorite dessert. And this can continue as well with, I'm going to go back down here, navigate to get a blank card. Not that you necessarily have to, but I just think it's a little bit easier for students to respond if you have something, a new question that you're going to ask them to do, or a new task. So in this case, I'm going to send a creative. You'll notice with creative, there are a lot more options available for responses. So what I would ask students to do, and I may have typed this up there or just told them, okay, students, I want you to research recipes for brownies and look for a recipe and add an image of that recipe, or you can type the text, or you can write out a recipe that you found online and you can take a picture of that. So the students now have options of either camera, text, they could add shapes, in this case, or they could write with the pen. So we're going to, excuse me, I'm going to delete that text box. That's fine. I'm going to upload this image, and I think I can't access my camera because I'm using it to talk to you right now. So I'm going to add an image. This is just something that I found earlier, just to save time, and submit. So then you'll see from the teacher's view, students are responding, or just, in this case, those are the options that they have. So if I wanted to then take this, if there were multiple recipe images that were in here, and we chose one as a class, and then I can send that one. In fact, what I'd like to do, you'll notice with this, because this was creative, I can double click on this and add it to the lesson as a card. And so now I would like to stop here, and I'm going to send it as creative, but I'm going to ask you to highlight anywhere where you see a fraction as a type of measurement. So then I can use this within my math lesson about fractions. So students, I would send it as creative, they would highlight those things, then I could send a number poll and ask them to estimate the number of cups or the amount of cups that are needed that are liquids. So, and you can continue to go on from there. Another thing I could do is, so if they were to come in, or as a class maybe, we were to come in and highlight, let's see, I'm gonna choose my pen, my highlighter. And if I were to choose and highlight, let's see, those two and that one, okay. And then I said, okay, so we need buttermilk, we need oil, and we need boiling water. And so then I said, all right, I'd like you to compose a text that you need to send to mom or dad to ask them to get these items from the store, and that you need to make this chocolate cake or chocolate brownies. So you would send out a text. The students can then type in their response, and you can remind them that it needs to be a complete sentence, or there may be a certain skill that you're working on in writing. You know that there are multiple items here. So remember, you're making a list as part of your sentence. What do you need to include whenever you're making a list? And so the students would then respond with their text. Mom, please get buttermilk, oil, and boiling water at the store. Okay. Okay, I'm getting a couple questions about grading and about adding points and giving some feedback to students. Okay, we will talk about that in just a moment. Good question. Okay, so now I'm going to submit this. You'll see that a sentence come in, get cake stuff. All right. So then the teacher you can select one of these and ask them to edit it for specifics. In this case, obviously I can see that I spelled something wrong, so I could ask them to look for any spelling errors. I could ask them to look for my commas in a series. Did I use them appropriately? But then also, I just noticed there's some revision that could happen here. So I could send this out and say, hey, does this actually make sense? What would be, does it make sense that we're asking mom to get all of these things at the store? What would make more sense? What would be better? How can we change this? And so you can send it as creative, then the students can then respond and edit this. So they could talk at their table and talk as a group and say, actually, no, it does not make sense that mom is going to pick up boiling water at the store. We have water at home and we'll boil it at home. So they can cross that off. Okay. And then of course that would mean the and would cross off. So they would make those adjustments and submit it back. And so then teacher can then see those responses. Okay. All right. There you go. That's perfect. Circle it, write why you're eliminating it. So again, I can show names. I can see whose wonderful answers are coming in. And to make sure that I covered those. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and stop that poll. And now that you have experienced a little bit as a student, I'm going to exit. So when I exit, you'll notice that it's going to ask me if I wanted to save this as a new lesson, which may be the case if it is something that I've created that I want to carry on through the next day and come back to it, then I can save this as a new lesson, especially if I have more than one class. And so I want each class to have their own. So I could do that. If I don't want anything to be changed, I would say don't save. Or if I'm okay with it saving over my original, then I would say save, and then my original would go away. So save as new lesson would be a great way to then go back and be able to look at those student responses. And there is some reporting that you can do, which I don't know if I'm gonna have time to get into, but that you can then look at those student responses and give feedback to the students. So I am going to actually not save, although I love all your responses. And we're going to go back to our presentation. I'm going to exit out here too. Excuse me 1 second, it's hiding down here. There we go. Okay. Okay. So student responses, as I mentioned, it definitely, if I had it up and was, able to make sure that every table is responding or every student is responding. So you have a lot of different options for how you want students' responses to come, but then you can also open it up and give them some freedom to respond in a way that works best for them. So it's not always, a raising a hand or a writing out a response or a, creating something. You can give them some freedom to respond in a way that's comfortable for them. And that's one of the benefits of having that creative tool. So this is just a little side tip I thought I would point out there. And we didn't get a chance, didn't really experience like trying to take a screenshot, but this is in here and I am going to share this presentation. So we do use Chromebooks here in CFISD. So for any CFISD teachers, if students are taking images of or screenshots of their screen on a Chromebook, this is the tip on how to do so. And like I said, just start simple. So a question came in about students creating questions. So the way that you would do that is if you opened it up to students for a creative or text or whatever it may be, and then the responses came back in, then as the teacher, you would choose that response and send that back out to the class. There are some other options if you create classes and don't use it as we are with open class, but I probably won't have time to get into that, but I'm going to share a lot of resources with you at the end so that you can see there are some additional features that you can put in place if you set up your students with within a classroom in ClassFlow. I'm using the word class so often, so hopefully this is making sense. But in this case, we did it as an open class, and so the options are a little bit limited, but there are some other things that you'll be able to do. And then someone else is asking about, can you import slides or PowerPoint? Absolutely, that's what we're going to talk about whenever we get to step 3, creating lessons. Okay. All right, so we're going to talk about teacher moves and some tips and some things that I've seen teachers do that just really help with the management and of devices and of students and how, especially if you're not a one-to-one school or one-to-one campus or classroom, and how they've managed using ClassFlow in the class, and then just a few things to be aware of. So we're going to start by watching a video. on one second. I'm just going to move this up so that I can control. There we go. Okay. Okay, so this is a 5th grade classroom, and they are using ClassFlow. There is one computer at each table. You'll notice that the students are still, using manipulatives, using paper pencil, using rulers. They're still doing an activity, and then the responses as they come to conclusions are going on the ClassFlow. So then the teacher is able to quickly see those responses. It's encouraging collaboration, and then she's able to, in real time, see those responses and go and make adjustments at the tables that may be struggling. So one of the ways that she manages it, or that I've seen, a lot of teachers manage it, is having that one computer per table. Also, possibly having partnerships. So having 2 computers at a table, and then students are paired up and working together, because it's still, that collaboration and that discussion that the students have with each other prior to responding really does help support and helps them, even more so take that risk. So as a teacher, if you're a Sci-Fair teacher, this is how you access ClassFlow. You go to cfisd.classflow.com. You select login as teacher. This part right here is really important. You have to select Sci-Fair login here, and you sign in with your credentials. So then it brings you to your homepage. So this is just a GIF. It's going to go several times. So I don't expect you to follow along. I just want you to know that it's here. Again, you go to that cfisd.classflow.com. Students do the same thing. If you want them to join your class, then they would, it would prompt them, if you have a /join, which is, it's a bookmark within our student bookmark section, then they would be able to just type in your class code. And so a lot of teachers, what they have done is they'll have, computer managers in the classroom. And so those students, if it's a ClassFlow day, they know, they get the computers out. Whoever's in charge at the table is the one that logs into the computer and gets ClassFlow up and running, joins the class because that class code stays the same, and then it is ready to go. So when it's time for the ClassFlow class to start, then the computers are already set and there's no lag time of getting everybody logged in. So that's another tip that I've seen be really successful in classrooms, is having that announcement or telling your computer managers or your tech managers for your class, table managers, whatever it may be, that it's ClassFlow day, and get those signed in. So that really helps with the process as you move forward in your class time. Obviously, it's precious. We don't have a lot of it. So, and then this is if you are out of district, then like I said in the beginning, ClassFlow is free. And so to access it and set up an account, you just go to classflow.com and you can create an account with Google, with Microsoft, or with Facebook, or you can just create one with email. You can sign up for free. And again, once you create an account, you'll be given a class code. Like I actually have a personal one too, and that I use to just see what the differences are between what we have here in our district and then what is free options. And so you do have that same class code that students would access the same every time, which is helpful, not having to give them a new code each time. Similar to Google Classroom, I suppose. Okay. So let's see if I missed anything. Managing student devices, helping to keep those things organized. Also, that exit and save, which I did show you. So just making sure that if it's something that you want to save, if you do have 2 or 3 or 4 or 7 classes coming in through the day and it's the same content, and so you're using that same presentation, you would want to possibly keep the students responses throughout the week so that you can refer back to them. And, I know when I've taught summer school math a few years ago, we used, that was one of the things that we did. So I had a different one set up for each class that I saw. And so it just made it better to be able to go back and reference the things that we had done the day before. So definitely make sure that you, it's great because it pops up and it reminds you and asks you what you want to do, but take the time, save it, and then you can always go back to that later. Okay, let's see if we have any questions before I go into this next one. Okay, so lesson creation. There are a few different ways to create lessons and create things in ClassFlow. I'm going to show you a few of those here. Again, I really want to focus on keeping it simple and then also provide you with some follow-up resources to go to if you're ready to take it to the next level. So we're going to start by just talking about what it looks like whenever you first log into ClassFlow. So when you sign in, this is your home page. These are options to just start right away. It's like click and go. So I can click Instant Whiteboard. It brings up a white page. I have my class code up there. People can join the class and I can start sending things. I can start a quick poll right from here. Again, I don't have to create a lesson in order to get started. So you can create that one simple card to start off, or you can just start with a blank one. You can create lessons. There's also activities in here. You can do matching, things like that, and then quizzes and assessments. So I have a question about the classes section. Let me make a note of that. Some of these I may have to follow up with later, which I don't mind doing because I'm not sure if we'll have time. So about combining. Okay. All right, so this is a quick look. It's going to keep going through here on how to convert. This is one of the simplest ways to get started with something that you've already created or something that you may have as part of your curriculum. So in Sci-Fair, for instance, we use a lot of PowerPoint, PDF documents. And so this will show you the simple way to edit or import those and convert them into a ClassFlow lesson. So you'll see here, I'm going to go through it again. All right, so you'll come into resources, you'll click new, file upload, search for your file. In this case, I'm going to bring in this PowerPoint. It verifies that's the one I want to bring in. I could have brought in more than one. And then now that file is converting and will pop over in my resources list, and then I can open it. I can edit the lesson, or I could have just delivered it right from there if I knew it was good to go. So I can click deliver and get started with students and not have to make any changes to that. So I'm going to show you this. Exit here for a minute. My next one, yeah. Okay, so if I am in ClassFlow as a teacher, make sure I'm in the right one here. Okay, and I go to resources. I want to do new, file upload. I'm going to show you this in real time. And then I know that I have some things saved here. So I'm going to bring in this PDF. It confirms it here that I want to do so. Click continue. It loads in. It's going to bring it in as both a PDF. Let's see here. And there it goes. And a ClassFlow lesson. So here's my ClassFlow lesson. I can go into edit so that I can see how it looks. So if I want to manipulate it a little bit, if I want to add something to it, there's also, if I come over here to insert, which do show you, I think, in the next screen, but there are a lot of things that are already in here. There's clip art in these resource packs. So I can come and I could look for maybe a friend. There's all sorts of things. But one of the ones that I like the most is when I come in here to this resource pack, I'm going to take out that search and look at, hold on, here, and then there is clip art. Where is it? Shapes and symbols. I'm missing my, there it is, clip art. So then I can come in here and I can look specifically within this clip art, and I can pull in something from some storytelling, or I could look up just within, and I can search for those things. I was trying to see what this was about, the trumpet. Oh, maybe I would want to put a trumpet in there if I wanted to just add something to it. Not necessary, but it is an option. So then I can deliver that to students, and I can preview what it's going to look like. And then beneath here, beneath where my picture probably is, or my video, is the deliver option. There is a deliver button right underneath there. So it's just white and it says deliver. So I would click deliver, and then that puts it into my class. So if you are still in the class, then I could send it to you and I could ask you to do something with this. So I could then say, okay, I'd like you to find all of the rhyming words and highlight them. And so then students could start responding. And I would see those responses coming in. Okay. I'm gonna exit out of here. I do not want to save that. And it does automatically save my work as I'm going. So I'm going to exit the builder and come back to my resources page. Okay. Look at my time here. I need to get wrapping up. So the last thing I want to show you is the one that I was really excited about, so I don't want to miss it. Okay. So another way to create is to start from scratch. So again, you start from that home page, and instead of going into resources and bringing in something, then you would just click create lesson, and then it looks very similar to Windows-based, products. You have your text tool up here. You have you can draw, you can insert things, you can add photos, you can add links. So the one that I'd like to show you real quick is, let's skip ahead here. We'll come back maybe if we get a chance. Okay, actually, just remembered I had it in my notes. Okay, here it is. Okay, and you'll have access to this link as well. So this was about creating virtual field trips using ClassFlow. So that's all the rage. You can see kids using the VR and being able to go to all these different places. And so this teacher went through and explained how she used 360-degree images in her ClassFlow with interactive polls and getting feedback from kids and having the annotation tools. And so they could notate different things wherever they were traveling to. And so the steps on how to do that are here. I'm going to show you one really quickly that I started and how to add to it. So in ClassFlow, I'm in my teacher view, and I created this one called Field Trip. I'm going to search for it. There it is. I'm going to edit. Okay, so right here, it looks like it's not much because you just see the can you guess where we are, highlight, circle any clues that help you decide. But over on this side where I see the cards listed, just kind of like how a PowerPoint is, then I can click teacher student. And so I mentioned earlier about those student cards. And so the student cards, you have a lot of different options with them. But in this case, what this teacher has done is that is where she has embedded a 360-degree image from Google Maps. And so if I were to share this with students and deliver it, and then what students see is this. So I'm going to go back into my class as a student so you can see. Okay, so then as a student, I can bring this up big screen. I can toggle around and try to guess where this picture might be. If I've ever been there before, what I might notice about it. Okay, maybe you're studying architecture, you're studying, something about a character from a book who's been here. Now it does actually tell us, which is helpful. So maybe they, can then find out later where that's actually at. And as then the teacher can send a creative poll, and so then the student would have to highlight something that's giving them clues or how they figured out where they are. So I'm going to go to the next one, and then the student, oh, yeah, that's right. The student would see this view. So where are we? Happy Mardi Gras. All right. So that, like I said, is how you can maybe try out some virtual field trips in your classroom. I just loved that idea and had to share it. And again, I have this link included in the presentation. And she has step-by-step on how to do it. It was pretty easy. So, but if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or, look through here as well. Okay. And then the last thing, so we talked about starting simple, teacher moves, and lesson creation. And the last thing I wanted to leave you with is some information that you can use to teach yourself. Promethean has some really great quick videos, like under 2 minutes, for ClassFlow. So when you go to that link, it's going to bring you to their YouTube page, and you can see all of these under 2 minutes, sometimes under 1 minute, how to send content, types of polls, interacting with the results, creating activities, which I didn't get a chance to get to today. I didn't think I would, but there are a lot of really amazing things that you can do with ClassFlow, and I hope that you are able to give it a try and hear some things like this from your students. I'm going to play this and then I will sign out. I know I'm at my time here, so. Oh, hold on. I think I've got my volume off. Yep, we'll do this one.
Our notebook can be boring and actually painful. And our notebook can be boring and actually painful sometimes. So this is actually fun, and we're learning. Okay.
So he said, writing in our notebook can be boring and painful sometimes, but this is actually fun, and we're learning. So that was, just a little bit of feedback from a student's point of view as to how they enjoy interacting and using ClassFlow. And there.
I like ClassFlow because it's fun. No one likes the.
This one's one of my favorites. I'm going to just play this and then I'm done.
I like ClassFlow because it's fun. No one likes the old school way anymore. It's following technology and all that, so it's more interactive and all that.
Said no one likes the old school way anymore. It's more interactive, it's more fun, but in the end, it's about our student voice. There, it matters, and there are a lot of different resources out there to use, but ClassFlow is one, and I hope that you are able to take it and try it out in your classroom, and love to help you out and answer questions if you need, and I appreciate the time today. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. That was so awesome. I think the best part for me was experiencing, the experience as a student, because most of the times we're familiar with the teacher version or the view, but experiencing this as a student, that was awesome. Thank you. I loved it. You like it?
I did. It was awesome. I learned a few things today that I hadn't seen before, so that was great. You did an awesome job.
Wonderful.
Glad she's in our team.
Thank you.
So thank you for being there. Okay, and up next we have Chris Shiner. He also is going to have a little bit of a different presentation. So we've kind of had 3 different presentations than what we normally have. But Chris Shiner is going to do something that's going to rely on you as an audience. So if you have followed Chris Shiner on Twitter,
which you have,
well, hopefully
you
you have.
should.
He's got like a zillion followers. But if you have followed him, you know that he often posts tips and tricks on Twitter. And you may have had some questions for him. Well, today is your chance to ask those questions, because here's how his presentation is going to work. He's going to start out by sharing a few tips and tricks, but that's not going to take up very much of his presentation. Instead, he's going to build things based on what you ask him to build.
What?
So, yeah, I know, right?
Put him to work.
You're going to put him to work. So ask those questions. So think about the things that you would like Chris to be able to demonstrate for you. Get those little fingers ready to start typing. Put that in our chat window. If you haven't logged into the chat window in the top right of your YouTube, make sure you do that now, because that's the only way you can participate in this. So put your questions out there. Get ready for Chris. He's up next.
So on your YouTube, you should also see the attendance verification, right? Which you should have with your correct email. And on Twitter, we have our last Twitter challenge, which I hope is as awesome as the other ones that Amanda made, because they're hilarious. I participated. Did you participate?
I totally participated, and I was cracking up. That floating head, Amanda. Wow, you outdid yourself.
So this is our last one, and it's actually a poll. So we want to hear from you. So make sure you participate on Twitter and on the YouTube chat. So you can tell us, we'll tell Chris, what is it that you will like him to create?
So for the next just over 10 minutes, give or take 10 minutes, we want you to take care of your personal needs, submit your attendance verification, participate in the Twitter chat, participate on the YouTube chat. Man, we got a lot going for you. There's no sitting around idle while you're waiting for us to come back on, is there?
Put it to work too.
Okay. So enjoy the commercial that we have for you for the next few minutes and get yourself settled for the last session. Welcome back to our next share session, which with Chris. Well, I'm messing this one up. Sorry, Chris.
You're so excited
I am.
about
I'm
having
so
Chris from
excited.
Minnesota.
He is. He is a technology integration specialist for Prior Lake Savage Area Schools. And I learned something about Minnesota.
What?
Apparently, it is a state of 1,000 lakes. That's worth knowing, right? Well, if you're from Minnesota, that's what makes you famous. So he is really kind of famous on Twitter, and we're so happy to have him with us today. And he is known for sharing tips and tricks online for people to kind of follow, and he just gives them out there for free. So he's with us here today, and he's going to do the same thing with us, but for a 45-minute session. And he is going to focus on using Google Slide tricks, and he will start out by sharing some tips and tricks on Google Slides. And how to share them in places that you might not have thought of, or maybe you do, including Seesaw and Google Classroom. But after that, he's going to rely on you with your questions. So be ready with those questions. You can start posting them right now and get them out there. He is going to be watching a little chat window, and we're going to have him answer your questions as you go. And he's more than happy to cater his whole presentation to you, your questions, and your needs. How cool is that?
That is cool. We've never had anybody to do that.
No, so it's a new experience for us, and thank you, Chris, for bringing that to us.
So you tell him and he will do it. Make sure you use that attendance verification over there. And again, please make sure you write the correct email, people, please. Dots and commas are not the same. Just saying. So Chris, are you there?
I am here.
Awesome. We are so excited to have you.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here.
Well, awesome. Like, bring it over. Let's see.
Man, he's more excited.
I'm like, I'm so excited. I want to see it.
Yeah. All right, let me share. There we go. How's that looking for you guys?
It looks awesome.
All right. Let me hit the present mode here, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you again so much for inviting me to do this. I'm very excited. This is a presentation that I have done multiple times. And, you know, kind of like they were introducing, this is different at every single site we do it because it's based on 100% of what you guys suggest I build for you. So the title of it is Building Meaningful Moments Live. And it's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to build things that you suggest in Google Slides, and then I'm going to show you some awesome ways to actually showcase that, to publish that for your students, and how to do these awesome things so that your students can have meaningful moments that they're going to remember forever. So before we dive into that, though, I just want to quickly introduce myself. My name is Chris Shiner. Again, I'm from Minnesota. We have like 3 feet of snow outside. So I know that you guys are like, some of you are from Texas, some of you are from different places in the world. We have serious snow right now. We've kind of had a little warm patch, but you know, that's our reality right now. Is like, we got to go outside, we got to shovel, we got to do all that stuff that's not super fun to do. But that's a little bit about myself in there. I used to be a kindergarten teacher before I actually stepped into this role. So I taught kindergarten for 4 years. Loved every second of it, would go back in a heartbeat, but I feel that in this role, I get to influence more students and I get to do this kind of thing with you guys a little bit more often. So I'm excited for that. If you look on here, those resources, again, I'm on Twitter. That's my Twitter handle there. My website is just kshiner.com. And you can always reach out to me via email at any time. I'm always here to help teachers with anything that they so need. Okay. So I'm going to jump right in. Here's kind of our quick agenda that we have. This is not necessarily like time demanding on what we kind of have going on here, but I just want to quickly just give you the 3 highlights we're going to hit. So first thing we're going to do is just go over slides. We're going to do a drive-by of what super slides are. How do you maximize your Google Slides? And then I'm going to actually live build some things for you. I've primed my first idea for you. And so I hope that that's going to help you to see exactly what I'm building as we go into that. And then we're going to finish with perfect publishes. And I'll do 3 different publishes. The first one is through links. How do we give links to our students that they can make copies, they can make templates? How do we publish things through like an LMS, like Google Classroom? A lot of us use that. And the final one is Seesaw. And I choose Seesaw because our district uses that as our LMS. And so that is one that I'm very familiar with. And it's one that is very, very easy for every age student. So those are going to be our 3 publishes. Keep in mind that all of the options you're going to see can also be used in everything else, like Canvas. If you used Schoology, all of those things can still be used in that too. I'm just not going to showcase that specifically today. Okay. Whoops, let me go to the next slide here. Quick, again, super slides drive by because you're really going to get to see exactly what I'm talking about when I'm building. But the reason why I use Google Slides is because it's, in my perspective, it's the Swiss Army knife of G Suite. Some people say like Google Drawings can be that, and there's definitely positive aspects in that, but for me, it's Google Slides, and you'll kind of showcase, and I'll show you what I'm talking about as far as the Swiss Army knife. There's literally endless possibilities. Like every idea that I've come up with, I haven't hit that roadblock with Google Slides that you potentially could hit with other things. You know, if whatever idea you have, it's going to come out and it can be possible within Google Slides, which is why I choose it as my medium for creation in the classroom. And the final one, it's pretty obvious, but it's really easy to use. You know, it's something that anybody can pick up and anybody can get good at. And I hope that, you know, through joining in on this webinar, I hope that you can gain some skills that you can implement in your classroom tomorrow even, that are going to help your students by building awesome things. Okay. We'll keep on chugging because I want to get to the good stuff. I have two quotes in here and I'm going to briefly talk about them before I get in here. So this is one that I haven't seen necessarily these exact words posted on different things as far as, you know, somebody posting it on Twitter, somebody posting it in their presentation, but I see this and hear this phrase a lot, like, let's use technology to make teaching better. And I actually think that this needs to be changed to this quote right in here. Let's use technology to make learning better, because if you think about it, if we use technology as a teacher to make our lives better, if we use something that's going to streamline our work, that's going to keep us more organized, and that's going to, you know, help us to, you know, set up our meetings after school a different way, like using doodle polls or something, like that does help us as a teacher. And that's great, because maybe that's going to buy us a little bit of extra instructional time with our students, that we can do something a little different. But that's not going to be a fundamental shift for our kids. What we need to do is use technology to make learning better. You know, we need to give students learning environments that they're going to remember for longer periods of time. They're going to resonate with them in a different way. That's going to improve and boost the learning that they're having. And you could argue that some of those things are synonymous, but I just want to make sure as you're looking at all of these and you're watching me build these things, if what I'm showing you or what you're doing isn't making the learning better for your kids, and it's not improving what they're doing or improving how they're remembering things, then you can skip those things, okay? Because that's our ultimate goal, is we want to improve how our kids are learning, what they're learning, and how they're remembering that for the rest of their life, so that they can be successful within and without our schools. So that's just something I want you guys to keep in the back of your mind as you're watching me. Like, if you see something, you're like, that's too surface level, I don't want to do that, I want to do something deeper than that, then please challenge me as we do this too. Challenge me to do something a little bit deeper too, because our ultimate goal is to create amazing, meaningful moments and learning experiences for our kids. And you'll get to see, hopefully, some of that today. Okay, done with the soapbox stuff. I'm finished with that. I don't necessarily love doing that, but it's important to kind of set the stage for what we're going to do here during our webinar. So here's the ground rules. And you always have to set up ground rules when you're going to go into like a little dogfight, and that's, you know, hopefully kind of not what we're doing, but we're going to go into some dirty stuff here. So here's the 5 things. I depend on you. So if you're not going to like feed ideas this way, then I'm not going to know exactly what to build. With that being said, I have the first idea ready. So the pump is primed and I'm going to do the first one. After that, I rely 100% on you guys, because I got nothing else on my note sheet. Like, that's it. I got one idea and that's it for you guys. You have to come up with the rest of that stuff. I will try to finish as many of these builds as possible. We have about 40 minutes from right now that I have to be done. So I want to make sure that I get as many done as possible. I might get 3 done, I might get 5 done, I might get 2 done. We'll see. Number 3 is probably the most important with this, is I'm going to try to call out what I'm doing and how I'm doing it, because it's important that you guys understand that process and how to manipulate what I'm doing so that you can gain the skills to do this in your classroom. Because like it doesn't make any sense that I leave this webinar knowing how to do this. If you don't know how to do it and you can't do it for your kids, that doesn't really help your kids, because I can't make everything for everybody in the whole world. My job is to skill you up and to give you the tools that you need to do awesome things for your students. Okay. Number 4 is you're going to get everything that I build today. That's all free stuff. I put it out on Twitter all the time, so you can get those too today along with this presentation. And the last one is what I always end with is watch me today if this is new to you and if this is maybe a little uncomfortable, and then copy me tomorrow. So watch what I do the things that I do tomorrow, and then you're going to make amazing, meaningful moments for your kids. Okay? Does that sound like a deal? I'm not going to wait for your answer because I can't hear you anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right onto the live screen. I'm going to tweet out the first idea, and you guys are going to get the opportunity to kind of know what it is, maybe a little bit ahead of time because there's a little lax here. But what I'm going to start with is actually doing a reading reflection with Google Slides. So I'm going to show you how to build it from scratch, like literally from nothing, and then how to publish it, and then we'll move on to the very next build. So like I said, keep the ideas flowing, get things on this little chat window that they're going to share with me so that I have the opportunity to build what you guys kind of share. Holy cow, we have a lot of ideas already. I don't know, you guys can't necessarily see this, but I love that one that's right there, and we're going to write it down as something we're going to do later. Okay. I'm going to leave this stuff right here. Quickly just overviewing what I have open. I have the presentation we just started. I have the Google Slides 101. This is just Google Classroom. And I have my Seesaw class, okay? So what I'm going to actually do to start this work, starting from zero, like scratch, nothing, absolutely nothing going on here. Like I'm picking up dirt. I'm going to go and make a new slideshow. Now, if you don't know this trick, this is already a huge one for you. If you go to slides.new and I hit enter, bam, this is going to make a new slideshow. Like this is a life hack that has literally saved me so much time because I make so many slideshows. I don't have to go to Google Drive. I don't have to click on new and then go down to slides. And then finally I'm here with this new slideshow. I don't have to do that anymore. I can use this little trick here that's going to allow me to get a little new slideshow like in 2 seconds here, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna do is erase everything on here. So I'm starting with a blank canvas. And I'm gonna move a couple things around here just so I can see exactly what I'm working with. Okay, perfect. Here's my full canvas. What I'm going to start with is just setting the background color because nothing is good for kids if we don't have a beautiful background color. Next thing I'm going to do is just put a header on here for my kids, just because that gives them the opportunity to see exactly what I'm doing. If you don't see that blue line there, it's a great helper for me. It helps things snap into line, and it helps things just to guide me, like what exactly do I want this to look like and feel like, okay? I'm going to shrink it a hair. And I'm going to use my favorite font right now, which is right here. It's called Engelbert. And you're going to see what this looks like. It's cute. It's fun. It's phenomenal. I mean, you guys are going to love it. So here we go. I'm going to title it Reading Reflections because, again, that is what our first idea is, my primed idea, what we have here for you. And we have some other ideas that are coming into the chat, which are phenomenal. And we're going to use some of those too as we go. Okay. Title, done, finished. Next thing I'm going to do is add in some pieces for learning. So when I think of how I'm going to design this slide, if I'm going to give a template of this to students, I want to think about what are they going to touch and what are they just going to need to move or type into and things like that. So as I do this, I'm going to first start with things that they cannot touch. All right. And what I actually do to do this, if I want to make something in here that they can't touch, I have to go into the slide master to be able to put these things in. Now that can be a little scary, but I'm going to walk you through it as we go. So I have my title, I have my stuff ready. I'm going to put in 3 boxes here that students can't touch. So I'm going to go up here to slide, edit master, and I'm going to put in those 3 different shapes. Now I'm going to choose to do like the rounded corner, well, rectangle, whatever you want to call this. I'm put in 1, make it white with no border. I'm going to duplicate it, which on a Mac that's Command D. If you're on a PC, it is Control D. Ooh, I could be wrong on that one. And I'm going to do the final one here, using my helpers to kind of snap things into line. 1, 2, 3. Now I know it's hard to see here. Whoops. It's hard to see because I made the shapes white, but if you look over here, you can see that those shapes are there and they're on this page for my students to use. Now, again, I don't want them to touch this. And since I put it in the master, I cannot click and move these. Like, it's awesome for our little learners to have something here that they can't move on. So if you're like a teacher of young kids, like right there alone, using the master to be able to put things on there, that's a huge tip and something that's going to save your life literally. Okay. Let's go back to the master because I actually forgot one thing. I want to add titles to these. Okay, so let's have the title on here like first. Whoops, we'll put this at the top. Second, if I can type it right. And the last one here, we'll say this is third. Okay, so we want them to kind of retell the story. What happened first? What happened second? What happened third? Let's change our fonts to be something fun. And here we go. Okay, done. We're finished. Like, this page is done, ready to go to kids. I'm going to add more layers to this. I'm going to add more pages to this because I want to kind of showcase a couple more things in here. I'm going to put in a new blank page. Let's do it a different fun color. I'm going to copy our title. Here we go. Sweet. Page 1, page 2. Let's call this one. Let's call this Reading Reflections. We're going to add in a subtitle of tricky words that stumped me. I can't figure them out. And I'm going to add in just some lines here because what I want students to do is actually write on here the words that they got stuck on. What are the things that as you were reading, you're like, uh-oh, what am I supposed to do? I don't know what this word is. Okay, we're going to create a space for them to reflect on that and to share what words stumped them. What words were the ones that were tricky for you that you might need some help on? Okay, there we go. 1, 2, 3, looks great. Columns are here, sweet. Now let's pretend for a minute that I accidentally put these here and I didn't put them in the master. If you take this whole thing, we're going to copy this. We're going to change our layout just for fun. And now if I go back to master and I paste them, we again have these untouchable layers here for students that are locked into place, something that I can't mess with, okay, which is a huge, huge tip, trick, time saver for you, okay? I had planned to add in one more slide, but I am out of time for this idea because it's already like 6:15, and I want to get to more of your guys' ideas because you have better ideas than I do sometimes, okay? So let's pretend that I'm finished with this. I want to share it with kids. I'm going to go back here just to show you the home page that gives you the 3 different options. We're going to start with option number 1 of perfect publishes, sharing things with a link. So how do I provide a link to my students that they can make a copy, that they can have a template, that they can use in their classroom like right now? Again, this link I can share on Canvas, I can share in Schoology, I can even share this in Seesaw, and they're going to be able to complete this work using this link option, okay? What I first have to do is title my presentation, Reading Reflections. And I'm going to go over here to the share button and just make sure that my students can actually get to this. Because if our first problem is our students can't get to this, we're going to be in a world of hurt when it comes time for our lesson here. Okay, so we want to make sure that they can touch this, they can get to this. The permissions are set that they can see it. Okay. The next thing I need to do if I'm in a slideshow is just erase the very last section here. And I'm gonna, well, it's not gonna let me zoom in, but that's okay. If you can't see, I have everything highlighted from the slash over, okay? Not the slash itself, but from that edit all the way to the end, I have that highlighted. And what I'm gonna do is replace that with the following phrase. And this is kind of the big trick that's on here. Template / preview. Now, you can replace it with the word copy, but I like to choose this one because if I hit enter, you get this preview look for the students. So they know what they're going to actually make a copy of. And they have this template button in the top right that they can click and make their own copy of for themselves. Now, like I said, you can change it with copy. A lot of people know that, but you don't get to preview the content if you don't use this trick, okay? Template / preview is that $1 million word on there, or $1 million trick that's on there, okay? Awesome. Next two I'm going to quickly showcase here is putting things into Google Classroom and then sharing things on Seesaw, which is, again, what we use. It's something I'm super, super familiar with. I'm just in the Google Classroom class here, and I'm going to go up here to classwork, okay? Once I'm in here, I can create a new assignment for my students, and this might be total old learning for a lot of people, but that's okay. I just want to showcase all this. And I'm just going to title this reading, reflections templates or whatever. Make or fill this template out. Okay, and I'm just going to add in this template that I just made for my students. Now, the nice thing about Google Classroom is you can set this up to make a copy for each student for me. So I don't have to share a special link. I don't have to do anything fancy like that. I just need to click this option, dink, and then I go up here to assign it into my class for my students. So it's going to do a lot of the lifting for me as far as like sharing the link and doing things like this. And it also does a lot of the lifting on the Google Drive end also, but I'm not going to show that today. We're going to glance right on past that one. And I'm going to even close out of Google Classroom because I only wanted to show this one time and then we'll keep on moving. Okay. The last one I want to show is probably my favorite because not only do we use this, but it's also a phenomenal thing that if you haven't seen this yet, this is going to like blow your mind. Okay. So I'm going to go up here to add, and I'm going to go to assign activity. I just need to get to the Seesaw activity library. Now there's 8 billion things in here for us to use, but if you're somebody like me who likes to make their own content, this is going to be a game changer for you, okay? In the activity library, I'm going to create a new activity. Let's just title this reading reflections. I'm not going to add anything else in here, but I'm going to add in this reading reflections for the template, okay? What I'm going to do is go to upload and then choose from my Google Drive. And what I'm actually going to do in here is I'm going to choose that reading reflections file like this. Whoops. Reading reflections. And it's going to search my Google Drive for it. It's going to look for it right here. Here it is. And if I select it, it's going to do 99.996248% of the work for me. And you're going to see that here. What it's going to do is it's going to look for all of the pages you have in that slideshow, and it's going to make pages for you in Seesaw. Like, look at this, unreal. It's going to, like, if you had a 20-page slideshow, you could put 20 pages into this as an activity for your students, like in nothing, no time, zero, done. If you already have done it in Google Slides, great. You have it all finished. It's done for you. So you have the freedom too to use all of the tools that you have in Seesaw. Sweet. Yay. This is awesome. I love this. It's cool stuff. And you can share this with your kids just like we share everything else in Seesaw. So I just wanted to show you that just because, I mean, that's like a humongous time saver. Like we used to have to download them one page at a time. Ugh, no more of that. That's all finished up. So now we're going to use this method, which is going to save us a massive amount of time. I'm going to close Seesaw too. And what I'm going to do is even close out of reading reflections because we're going to reset ourselves into actually building a second live project. Now, what I'm going to do, I have a bunch of ideas that were here that I'm going to actually take one of them that has a bunch of stars on here. And it's one, I know somebody's like, how do you make the magnifying glass? And I might show that at the very end. I might not, but we'll see. I want to do this one though. It's how to make a choice board because a lot of us have seen them on, you know, you see them on Pinterest, you see them on Teachers Pay Teachers all over the place. And what I want to do is show you how to actually make that pretty quickly and easily. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to go onto Twitter. I got my phone right here in my hands, and I'm going to actually tweet this idea just to make sure that if there's anybody who's missing out, they have the opportunity to join in here, okay? So live build number 2 is our choice board. Yikes. I have to be able to spell the word choice right. And then we are going to start live build number 2 right now. Here we go. Starting again from scratch, pulling the dirt out from underneath us. Slides.new. Massive, massive time save. We're starting from nothing. Absolutely nothing here. I'm going to get rid of what we have just living here on the page. And what I'm going to start with is inserting a table, okay? Because I want to first have like a grid for my kiddos to, you know, have the choices on it. And then we're going to actually fill this in as we go, okay? So here we go. Let's make our table nice and big, nice and wide. Move this out of the way. And we'll set our background because then I can play with some of our colors here. Let's go with a nice yellow or sunflower, whatever you want to call it. Okay. Black border, number 4, and our interior color, let's make a little bit lighter yellow. So we get this cool little contrast here. Okay. I'm going to make this just a hair bigger. Okay. And we'll move it over like this. Sorry, I'm kind of playing with this a little bit more than I would like to, but that's okay. Here we go. I'm going to insert a little rectangle over here. And this title or this column this row, rows go this way, columns go this way. This row is going to be your must do's. These are the things that you as a student have to do when you walk into my class. These are things that we have to get done before you can move on to kind of your fun things that are coming up next. Okay, let's make it green. We'll do this. I'm just playing with some of our fun little options here, like drop shadows and all that cute stuff. Look at that. That looks awesome. Okay. What I'm going to do is duplicate it, slide it down like this, and then we're going to do it like this. May do number 1. Okay. You can choose something from here. This is going to be may do number 2. Simple, easy, straightforward. Okay. Let's change our colors just because we're going to play with this just a little hair. This is going to be orange. This is going to be blue. And then we'll change our columns. Okay. Because I want this to be like visually guiding for my students. I want them to know that when you're in the green, you're doing a must do. If you are, oops, this one should have been orange. If you're in the orange, you're completing a may do. And then finally you're finishing with blue because that's the way we have this kind of set up on here. Okay. Visually appealing for our kids and also something that gives them the freedom that they need to choose. All right. Once I have all this stuff set up, I'm going to just set my font in my boxes so that I can start to type in all of my content in here. So this might be like Khan Academy for 10 minutes. And then I could include a link right here. Link, just like this. Okay. We'll link it. It's going to search the web. Sweet. Khan Academy. That's phenomenal. All right. Let's bump up the font. Whoa, too big. Right about there. All right. Let's keep on going. Let's just do 1 row here, just for example's sake. Okay. After they finish Khan Academy, after it's spelled right, obviously, we're going to have them go to do, I don't know, let's do a seesaw activity. Okay. Whoops. Yikes. Not all caps. Seesaw activity. We go. Now we can type it. And this is going to go, instead of the Khan Academy, we're going to have it go to Seesaw. Okay. Seesaw.me. Whoops. Okay, close enough. All right. They're going to finish with playing a dice game. Awesome. I love dice games and I love when kids kind of play them. And they're going to actually get this from, let's say, the blue corner. Let's pretend we have a bin set up in the blue corner for the kiddos to grab from. Okay. We'll make this bold so they kind of understand. So all students have a heading, what you're working on. They have a link if they need to, and they also have a location that's going to help guide them through the work that they're going to do. Okay, so let's pretend we filled in this whole thing. It's finished. We're all done. We're ready for math block, and our students are kind of just enjoying themselves, waiting for us to kind of start. What you can do is you can share this with them by just putting it on like your Promethean board or your smart board or your TV. You can do that. That's really easy for them to just know exactly where it is. But you can also share it through that link view or through that, that activity view that we shared in Seesaw. That's going to allow them to actually touch the things that are on here. For this specific example, I would actually not recommend having students make a copy, because if they make a copy of this, they might accidentally delete links and they might accidentally remove something, and then you're just going to be having mass chaos with your kids. So I actually wouldn't recommend sharing this as a template for students. I would just share it with the link so that they have permissions to, you know, complete all their work by just looking at it, by just viewing it and then clicking on things as they need to. Okay. I would do that by just going advanced, switching this to be anyone with the link or anyone within your network. And then you can just share this link however you share everything else with your kids. You could make a bit.ly, you can make a QR code. It doesn't really matter, but that's kind of how you would get them this choice board. Okay. I hope that was a good example. I tried to go as fast as I could while getting to the last ideas that we have here. It is 6:27, which means that we have a little under 20 minutes. Hopefully we can get 2 more finished so that all students can get everything, or all you guys, you're my students right now, all of you can get all of your ideas out. Okay. How do you make an interactive slide with the littles in elementary? Okay, that's like my wheelhouse right now. I have a lot of ideas around that, and I'm going to show you one of my favorite ways to do that. But before I actually get to starting this, I'm going to tweet it out again, because we want to make sure that everybody on Twitter and everybody in the whole entire world gets a chance to join in on the fun with you guys. Number 3 would be, let's call this one a Dice-O-Rama, because that's what we're going to do. Dice-O-Rama. Okay, we're going to make an interactive demonstration with our kids, an interactive game, something that you can actually take and put into your classroom right away tomorrow. Okay, so before I do that, I kind of primed this idea in my head because it's one that I share all the time. I'm playing with this like bag of dice here. I'm going to hold up a couple of them so you guys can see. So this bag of dice has everything from a 6-sided dice like this to a 20-sided dice and like 12-sided dice, and awesome stuff for kids. Like, these were a godsend in my classroom, and they're things that are just unbelievable manipulatives for your kids. So what I'm going to do is use this right here, this manipulative, to build a template for you. So we're going to like reverse engineer this project here together. Okay. Starting from scratch, slides.new, caps lock is on. Here we go. So this one's called Dice-O-Rama, and it's a really fun one. It's one that I haven't done this exact idea before, but I've always really, really wanted to. And I'm glad that somebody kind of asked this, because it's, you know, it's a phenomenal thing for all of our kids to get. And this is something that you can take, and honestly, the rigor of this is great for any age student. Like, you could have a 3rd grade student doing this, and you'll kind of see what I'm talking about here in just a little bit on how this kind of ramps up its rigor really, really fast. So I'm just putting in a little title here. We're just going to do all kinds of fun stuff. Let's change our font to be our favorite, obviously. And let's make it bold this time. Whoops, get rid of the highlighter. So this is called Dice-O-Rama. Whoops. Awesome. I love this already. Okay. What I'm going to start with is just putting in some little placeholders, because we want to scaffold up our learning for our kids. So what I'm going to do is go into shapes and add in our little rounded corner rectangle. Here's a trick for you. I know it's a little bit hard to see because I'm blue. Like, if I go like this, it's hard to make a perfect square, but if I hold down the shift key like this, it's going to make a perfect square no matter what I do. So this is a great way for you to make a perfect square in like 0 time. It's just something that you don't even think about. It's like, great, perfect square, finished, sweet, love it. Okay. What I'm going to do is just make a bunch of these, because our very first page is going to be the easiest page. Whoops, easiest page for our students. Okay. Dice-O-Rama, this one is roll and write. So they're literally rolling the dice and writing it down in one of these blanks. Okay. Let me move this over here and we'll do one last copy and then we'll go to the next page. Ooh, there it is. Perfect. Okay. Looks sweet. Love it. What I'm going to do to save me time, since I want to use these rectangles again, is I'm just going to duplicate this slide over here on the left. And how I do that is I can right click on it. I can copy and paste it, but that's kind of long. Or I can do Command D or Control D to make a duplicate of that. That's what it's going to do, is it's going to duplicate the whole thing. So it's easy for me to use the same pieces over and over again. Okay. So the dice-o-rama is, the first one is done. The roll and write is finished. The next one we're going to do is this one is called doubles. Okay. So I'm going to grab these and I'm going to shrink our space just a little bit because I need to use 6 rows. Excuse me. Okay. Like that. That looks awesome. Here's how this game is going to be played. Okay. So this would be roll number 1. And then this is that roll doubled. Okay. So if they rolled like a 6, they would put a 6 here and they would put a 6 here. And what they're doing and what their goal is to combine those two by adding them and then writing the answer in the third spot, just like this. Okay. This would be one that is complete. I'll get rid of these words here because they don't really need to be there. Okay. This one, if I roll it, I got a 17 or whatever. 17 plus 17, 34. Bam, just like that. Nice and easy. Okay. So I'm going to copy this whole equation and let's duplicate it like, I don't know, 4 times. Let's say that this is going to be a quick one. Uh-oh, we're going off the page. That's okay. If I'm off the page like this is good troubleshooting for everybody. I'm going to highlight everything and then grabbing a corner and holding shift. I'm just going to shrink it a little bit, just a little bit. Okay. So that I can get everything to fit on the page. Everything, if I hold shift like that, and if I hold the corner, everything still stays like perfectly proportional. So it's a really great trick for me as we go through this. All right. Last thing I'll do is change the background, just because we want to make sure that this stays visually appealing and interesting to our kids. And we're going to duplicate it. So the last slide that I'll show here is as we think about how do we scaffold learning for our kids and think about like counting progressions and other things like that, we want them to think about what's like the next number. What is like the number plus 1, the number plus 2, the number plus 3. So this one is actually going to be built for that. What I'm going to do is feed all the students the numbers. Okay, so this is going to be our plus 1, like this. Let me move this to the back here. Whoops. Okay. And so what they're doing, uh-oh, I didn't mean to copy that. Yikes. What their students are doing is they're rolling a dice and then they're going to add 1 to be able to come up with whatever the answer is. So even if you're rolling a 20-sided dice like this, if you roll 20, you still have to think of, okay, what's 1 more than 20? What you can do with this is flip this on its head. Say, great, you know all your plus 1s. Okay, let's do the next one. Let's do a -1 now so that you can complete this work. Show me how much you know and your flexibility in your math by showing me something like this. Can you go between +1 and -1 easily and quickly for your kids? All right. Let me get rid of this. Okay. You can then, I'm going to keep duplicating, just keep the idea flowing. I can go in here and go and take this and it's going to be -2 now. Sweet. Awesome. Okay. And just continue that work as you're going to scaffold up your learning for your kids so that they are getting a really rigorous activity in a really quick fashion. Okay. This one would be -2. This one would be -1, just putting our titles in here. And the last one here will be +1. Okay. So I'm going to finish this idea because I could talk about this for a very long time, but I'm not going to. I want to get to one more idea before my time is up in 10 minutes. Barely enough time to finish one last one. Okay. How do you create a reveal magnifying glass? Okay. I'm going to do this idea because it's awesome and it's something that I love sharing with everybody. But before I do that, I'm going to tweet really fast so that you guys all have the opportunity to join in. Let's paste it. Build number 4 is going to be the magnifying glass. Okay, here we go. slides.new, starting from nothing. I'm going to show you guys the trick here. I'm going to show you what I did here. So this isn't something that you guys can all steal. You actually can, because I want you to copy me tomorrow. So here we go. This is arguably my favorite thing to do in Seesaw, and it's one that you can actually take and do for any content. And I'm going to show you actually how I built it here. So I'm going to erase this stuff, and I'm going to set a background, because seeing a background helps you to understand how this actually works. Let's make it a gradient background, because that's a little bit easier to see. And I'm going to zoom out of my canvas. Okay. And if you can do this by going up here to view and zoom and whatever, like that works. I can also go command option and then minus. Okay. So this is on a Mac, it's command option minus. On a PC, I believe it's command shift minus. Ooh, I could be wrong. Sorry if that's the wrong shortcut on there. We don't use PCs, so it's like something that's just a little bit clunky for me, but that's okay. Okay, so here we go. What I'm going to do is actually put in and show you how I made the magnifying glass. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to go over here to a shape, and I'm going to choose the donut. Okay, can you see that one? The donut. It's tiny, itty bitty, but it's the donut. And I'm going to take it, I'm going to make it, you know, like about that big. What I am looking for when I make this is I want this middle circle to be the middle of the magnifying glass, okay? So here's the trick, and this is how you do it, is you need to be zoomed out of your canvas, because it's not going to work. And I'm going to make this thing huge, like massive huge. So I'm going to hold shift and grab the corner and make this donut like a Homer Simpson donut, like he'd never ever imagined in his whole entire life, like massive, because I want this to cover the entire canvas. Okay, once I have this, I'm going to just hold this little, or click on that little yellow, what is it, is a diamond, something like this, to shrink that middle circle, because again, this middle circle is the part that you look through. That's the looking glass in here, and everything else is the part that gets blocked out. Okay, so you can see that this is all set up. This is essentially all that I did to make those looking glasses. Okay, I'm going to make this transparent, the edges, so that it is a little softer look, and I'm also going to make it like white. Okay, what you can do is you could make this color, like, I'll just show you what it looks like. If I go here to custom, I can crank down the transparency a little bit, so you kind of have this like fake reveal in here, like you can kind of see, but not really. It's like this misty look on here. I'm going to make it a little bit less transparent. So that's an option for you. I want it to be like solid white, like you can't see anything that's going on in here unless you're looking through that little glass. Okay, so once I have this, I'm actually going to zoom back into my canvas like this. I'm gonna zoom in one more time so that I have a nice precise work area. Okay, what I'm gonna do is go up here to shapes and make another donut about that big. I want to be just a little bit bigger than that hole there, because I'm gonna make the black edge of the outside of our magnifying glass. Okay, that's one part of it. The next part I'll make is just gonna be a little black corner like this, duplicate it, and then I'm going to make a big one for our handle, and you'll see what I'm doing here in just a second. Right here, like this. Dink. There we go. We've just made a magnifying glass. It's awesome. It's unreal. So cool. Okay, make these transparent, move this up. Awesome. I'm going to zoom out of my canvas here so you can see the whole big picture. Okay, so we have this giant donut that's covering everything, and then we have our little hole in here that's going to allow me to peek through everything. Before I finish, what I'm going to do is just group everything so that students can't accidentally grab one thing and move it. They are kind of locked into place as to what they have in here. So I can move this around, and it's a little clunky here on slides just because you know, you don't have that like smooth motion that goes with it. But this is actually revealing what is behind this magnifying glass. You're like looking through it to see what's on the other side. Okay, what I'm going to do is actually show you how to share this in Seesaw, because I have 5 minutes and I want to show that to you guys. What I'm going to do is cut this whole thing. I want to take it out, because if I'm putting this in Seesaw, I actually want to change the size of things. And I'll show you kind of what I'm talking about here in a second. So if I go to page setup, I'm going to go to custom and then just change it to be a square. I want this to be a big giant square of 10 by 10, something that I can use as a canvas for later. Okay, just like this, square. Awesome, done. Paste my giant donut, and I'm going to put it smack here in the middle so that I can kind of see what I need to clean up. Okay, whoops. I'm going to zoom out even one more time. Okay, it looks pretty good. I'm going to make it just a tiny bit bigger because I can see some corners. Perfect. Everything is gone. Now, before I take this out and put into Seesaw, I have to do one last change here. My whole magnifier is ready. Everything is set, but I have to go up here to background and make the background solid transparent. Now, this is what makes the magic work here for our thing. Because if I didn't make this transparent, I would never be able to look through the glass. And you'll kind of see what I'm talking about when we transition it over. Like if I left it that blue, you would only just see that blue filled in circle on the magnifying glass because there wasn't any way to look through it. Okay, let's just give this a little spin. Okay, sweet, awesome, done. I'm going to go up here to file and then download this as a PNG. Okay, that's the other thing that I have to do. PNG allows transparent things to stay transparent. Since I make the background transparent, it's going to still work if I choose this export option. Okay, boom. We're going to leave it down here because I'll pull it into Seesaw here in just a second. Seesaw.me. And we're going to do our last thing with our 3 minutes. We're going to end like perfectly on time, you guys. This is awesome. Let's go in here to make a new activity for our kids. Okay, create a new activity. Let's title it Magnifying Glass. Oh man, that's rough. I love you, spell check. You're the best ever. Let's add in a template for our students. Okay, and let's just go to drawing. Let's just start from scratch here. Okay, I'm gonna start by just putting in some words. I don't know. Let's make them just fun words. I don't know. Sight words maybe. Sure, that sounds easy. Okay, let's change our style to be that one. That one. Okay, let's copy it. I see. Whoops. Copy. Come on now. Copy and paste. The. Yikes. Oh man. Okay. And I'm going to do one more just for example's sake. I see the man. Let's say this is a sentence. Okay. Fun. Awesome. Here we go. What I can do is actually go to upload this image right here, but I'm going to try something I've actually never tried. We're going to do this like beta test. I'm going to take this and just pull it right in, and we're going to see if it works. Boom, it does. Look at that. That's awesome. Unreal. Okay. I'm going to make this super huge. This is just my magnifying glass right here that has this little transparent button that's in here. Now I can see as I look at this that since I pulled it in, it's actually not working, which is okay because that was a beta test. Okay. So I'm going to go here now to the magnifier, go to upload, and I'm going to choose this from my downloads option that's here. It should be titled Untitled something. And I have way too many of them. So let's go back to this one. We're going to export this one more time, guys. So bear with me for the last 2 minutes. Okay, let's call this magnifier. All right, sweet. We're going to go download PNG. Okay, and let's take this and slide it over. Here it is. It's living right over here. Okay, I'm going to go upload from my desktop because we got it living right over there. It's called magnifier. Here it is, magnifier.png. Here we go. Let's see if this one, if we got it on this one. Okay, it does, it works. Look at, you can see through it. Isn't that awesome? Like, look at this. Look at how fun this is for kids. They get this canvas like this, and they can now move around this magnifying glass to find stuff in here. Look at that, man, awesome. So I'm even gonna make this super huge. So there's like no chance that they would ever see anything unless they actually find it. I see, where is it? See the Man, there it is. Awesome. Okay. So that's the magnifier glass. That's kind of how you make it from start to finish. I appreciate whoever asked that question because that's a really awesome one. And it's something that's one of my favorite ways to quickly engage kids with Seesaw, or really with anything. But I know I'm a tiny bit over time, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who joined and hopefully who learned something. Again, my tricks on here were just like for you guys to learn some of this. So hopefully you could watch me and you could learn from me today, and hopefully then tomorrow you can take those and put those into your classroom. So thank you so much. I'm going to pass it back to you guys, and it's all yours.
Oh my goodness, that was so awesome. I cannot like pinpoint one thing better than something else. So I actually want to go back and watch it.
I know it was a lot of stuff. I'm sorry.
She kept interrupting me. I'm like, Cammy, stop.
Manny,
I was paying attention.
so was I, but I was excited. Okay, so our next EdTech Live is April 14th, which is also a Tuesday. We want to make sure that all of you join us here back again. And thank you, Chris. It was awesome having you. And
thank you.
I know I'm going to be watching this video tomorrow. How many of you out there are going to be watching this video tomorrow? Because it was just like a treasure trove of stuff.
It was more and more like, just keep coming.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Sure does.
So thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a few things that we're going to go over with you before we close out for the night. One of the things I wanted to share with you, which I need to actually share my screen to be able to do that. So give me a moment to share my screen. And I'm going to actually do it as a screen this time. There we go. So we have something special coming up for you on March 2nd. If you use Equatio, or maybe you don't know what Equatio is and you want to have, let's say in Google Forms, or anything out there, either in a Microsoft document or in a Google document, and you need to use math type and you don't know what to do to make that happen. Well, Equatio is going to be here to help you with that on March 2nd. We have our very own Janae Johnson that is going to help participate with that webinar. So that, yeah, I know, right? Isn't it pretty awesome?
I did awesome.
So we have a bit.ly to help you with the registration process for that. And that is bit.ly/E register. So register online if that is something that you are wanting to participate. It is free. So there's nothing better than free, right?
I know. I've said that before. That's my favorite F word. Free.
Okay, not only is the webinar free, but Equatio is free for teachers too. So that's pretty awesome. In our district, we have Equatio, and we've actually paid for Equatio along with text help. So if you're in our district, you get the premium version of it. So you actually get even more. But there's a free version for those of you that are outside our district. Let me go on to the other thing that I wanted to share with you, and that is our YouTube Live. There we are. Look at us. Isn't that amazing? That's us.
Hey, us.
Okay, so it looks a little different than yours because our Zoom and our YouTube has a time lag. So that's why this right here, I don't know if you can see that. That may not be visible to you. But our Zoom image and our YouTube don't quite match up. But what I wanted to show to you is that you can watch on YouTube Live. So I'm going to go to CFISD. Well, you know what? Let's do this. YouTube.com. And if you want to find our channel later, feel free to follow us. So we've already popped up right here. In fact, this is us right here live. But if you're looking for us, go for CFISD EdTech Live. Look, I obviously do this a lot.
That's what I do. That's what I do.
We're there. And this is all of our stuff on our channel. And we're live right now, but this is what it looks like when you're just looking at our channel. So we have tons of EdTech Live sessions that we have done. Ours will pop in here tomorrow. You can see that it's not in the channel yet, but it will be in there tomorrow. So I'm going to pop up one of our previous ones, muted, awesome. And you can go to these events. And what's cool about these events is that if you look, there are little timestamps. You can click on those timestamps and it will jump you to that exact spot in the video. So I'm ready for these timestamps for tomorrow. We have session 1, 2, and 3. Now the timestamps are not in there because I haven't actually closed out the video. But once the video is closed out, you will be able to watch those videos tomorrow. So if it went a little fast for you today, that's okay. You could come back, you can slow the videos down. You can, and we're in the dark now. I guess it's time to go home. But you know what?
See everything that we do for you.
Time out, but that's okay. Actually, we still look pretty good on the camera, but
Always.
that's because we have our own little lights. But thank you so much for being here tonight. We have one last thing that we want to do for you, and that is introduce our team. So I'm going to stop share so we can have us all come in. We have Stephen, who has been the one that has been checking your emails and answering your phone calls if you've made any phone calls. We have Ryan, who has been working in the background, getting your questions to our presenters. And then we have Amanda with us. Yay, Amanda's with us. And Amanda has been working with you with the Twitter challenge. So she's the one with the floating head today. That was quite unique. Now, Connie had to leave a little bit early, but she was working on the YouTube chat. So we must finish. What happened to my yellow hat?
Oh, I have it because I'm wearing it.
Oh, just in front of me.
Hey, so we had to finish out with a little bit of fun. Other way. We had to finish up with a little bit of fun. Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for being my host.
Oh yeah, my co-host.
Yes.
We did a great job working together. Two is better than one. Wouldn't you agree? But
That's
you know
right.
what's even better than two?
What?
All of them.
Having a team that works together.
We have an amazing team. Thank you for being with us tonight. And we look forward to seeing you in a month and a half, April 14th. So thank you again.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.